Chapter 1358. Back then, ancestral patriarch True Dragon was the lord of the Dragon Gate world and was comparable to Emperor Qin in the ruins of deity system. However, he was rebellious and didn't want to serve the ruins emperor, so he hid in the Dragon Gate world. 1,000 years ago, when he left, he wanted to take his son and many other descendants with him, but Ao Bo refused. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon left in anger and hadn't returned to the Dragon Gate world for 1,000 years. But now, Ao Bo was facing a fatal disaster. Under the suppression of Hai Lan and Jade Lake, the True Dragon bloodline had withered. Back then, my useless son said that he stayed in the Dragon Gate to become the master of a world, not for fame and power, but to protect the roots of the True Dragon Ao family. I didn't believe him. But now, I know I misunderstood him. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon said with tears in his eyes. At that time, the overlords of the ruins of deity and the Hai Lan world had invaded the Dragon Gate world for 1,000 years and their rule was impregnable. Be it True Dragon or Ao Bo, they didn't have a chance to resist and only death awaited them. Ao Bo's strategy was to surrender on the surface and not resist violently, but not cooperate when attacking the 4th-level dimensional world and repairing the ancient teleport array, to act as a buffer for the invasion of the ruins of deity. But this time, Chen Bahuang, the special envoy of Jade Lake, who was a half-heavenly lord, killed Ao Bo and replaced him with someone else. Then, Sun Bojun, a special envoy of the Hai Lan world, also attacked and killed tens of thousands of cultivators of the Dragon Gate world, severely injuring the natives of the Dragon Gate world. Sun Bojun used to belong to the sea monsters. He was talented and powerful, but he was only a golden core cultivator back then and I injured him with one attack. The old man left after signing a contract with him to guarantee the independence of the Dragon Gate world. I didn't expect him to go back on his words. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon gritted his teeth and said. When you were around, they kept their promise. But you disappeared for a few hundred years, so it's normal for them to break the contract. The point is that the Ao family blocked their way to attack Earth. After Jiang Tian finished speaking, he slowly closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were already cold. How about the teleportation formation to the Jade Lake? It's been shut down. Bai Zhe rolled his eyes and said gloomily, I wanted to conquer the Sea of Stars. Killing my way to the Jade Lake was the first step. Who would have thought that after activating the teleportation array several times, there would be no reaction at all? Qing Di is so cunning. But the teleportation portal to the Dragon Gate world is still open. Hearing this, Long Yanan's eyes flashed with a cold light. She seemed to have sensed something, but she immediately lowered her head to hide it. This is a trap. Jiang Tian turned his head and glanced at her. He pondered for a moment and then sneered. There must be experts from Hai Lan world and Jade Lake world waiting for us to enter the Dragon Gate world. However, this time, we know that there are tigers on the mountain, but we still want to go to the mountain. Lian Sheng, you will oversee the Qiyi, Zhanglan, and Tianxing worlds. Jiang Tian said coldly with a murderous look on his face. Ta Kong, Mingyi, Xinlong, and the Black Dog, come with me to the Dragon Gate world. If the Dragon Gate world is lost, I'm afraid it won't be long before Yingzhou, Baiming, and Penglai worlds are taken down. Ta Kong came from Penglai world and had the bloodline of the Kunpeng. He was the overlord of the Ta Kong mountain, while Mingyi old ancestor came from the Netherworld sect in Baiming. Both of them were famous figures and traders of the ruins of immortality. Jiang Tian planned to push them to become the masters of their respective dimensional worlds this time, turning these 4-dimensional worlds, and even the Hai Lan world, into a strong fortress to guard Earth. Bai Zhe frowned and shouted anxiously, Brother Taichu, how can you conquer the Sea of Stars without me? Even a beast like the big black dog can go, so why can't I? The black dog said gloomily, how can you discriminate against me? I have the bloodline of the dragon race, so I should go to the Dragon Gate world to be respected. Zhang Qianlei also said with a murderous aura, Jiang Tian, you can't not bring me. The Jade Lake world killed countless disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect. I want to settle the score with them. Even Ding Lingdang said that she wanted to go. Her cultivation was not high, so she could only say that she wanted to take care of Jiang Tian's life. Long Yanan showed a smug smile, as if Jiang Tian was walking into a trap and would definitely die. Jiang Tian raised his hand and slapped her, causing her nose to bleed. He sneered. Ding Lingdang, the chaos in the Qi field and Kanglan worlds has just ended. I still need your help to rebuild. With this servant taking care of my life, everything will be fine. As for Bai Zhe and Qianlei, follow me. The Qi field world was not conducive to Zhang Qianlei's cultivation. Although Jiang Tian had taught him the technique of generating electricity out of thin air, and he had advanced several levels, Jiang Tian thought that it would be better to bring him to the Dragon Gate world, which was filled with dense clouds and abundant water vapor. If you dare to make a mistake, I'll just kill you. The large black dog looked at Long Yanan, took out a small booklet, and began to write and draw on it. He laughed and said, "Don't think that the Dragon Gate can save you. Recently, I've been writing a book on human pets, specifically to keep cultivators like you, who abuse the demon race, as pets." He did not have a good impression of Long Yanan. The techniques of the Dragon Gate were used to kill and restrain flood dragons, yellow dragons, and other dragon-type monsters. Many of Long Yanan's accessories and magic tools were made from dragon bones and dragon teeth. After the discussion, Jiang Tian immediately prepared to set off to check the teleportation formation. The Qi field world was also the territory of the Dragon Gate world. The teleportation formation to the Dragon Gate world had always been open. These days, there had been refugees from the Qi field world who did not accept Jiang Tian's rule going to the Dragon Gate world. Jiang Tian allowed them to do as they pleased. They only needed to pay a certain amount of crystal stones, all for today. The Dragon Gate world was the same as the Jade Pool. It had completely left the solar system and reached the outer region of the Southern Gate Double Star region. This teleportation formation was different from the ones from Earth to the 4th level world or between the 4th level worlds. It was a large-scale teleportation formation. The teleportation disc was like a huge stone platform with a majestic aura. It had a radius of 10 miles and was engraved with many profound and complicated runes. These runes came from the hands of the ancient powerhouses. This was the legacy left behind by the Sheng and Ao sovereigns. It was completed before they wandered the universe. On it, there were ancient bronze warships or disc-shaped flying objects. They were covered in green bronze and even mottled with moss. They were very ancient and had not been used for a long time. On this day, a group of people landed on the ancient teleportation formation. Jiang Tian was dressed in a white robe. His black hair was tied up with a golden crown. He appeared with a folding fan in his hand. He looked like an elegant young master. Azure Dragon, Mingi, and Takong were dressed in green and wore small hats. They looked like loyal old servants. Long Yanan had also washed away her impurities. She was dressed in plain clothes and looked down. She looked like a servant who had been bullied. She gritted her teeth and glared at Jiang Tian fiercely. Bai Zhe took off his feathered robe and star crown. He was dressed as a page boy. He frowned and rolled his eyes. He was very unhappy with his appearance. However, for his long-cherished wish to go to the Starry Sea, he could only bear with it. This time, in order to avoid alerting the enemy and to take the initiative, Jiang Tian and the others disguised themselves. They entered the Dragon Gate world as a fallen young master from a large cultivation sect in the Qi field world. Sigh, only a return to void stage or Dao integration stage cultivator can create an interstellar teleportation formation. The Shing Emperor and the other ancestors were very impressive. I wonder if the Shing Emperor and the others had thought of this day when they built the teleportation formation. Jiang Tian looked around. He had a lot of emotions in his eyes. The ancient ancestors like the Shing Emperor and the Ao Emperor couldn't move the deity ground, the islands, and the ancient earths together. They could only use the teleportation formations separately. However, they hoped that the descendants of the ancient earths would still be an inseparable whole even if they wandered to the outer realms. So, they built the teleportation formations so that they could communicate with each other. However, they didn't expect the ruins of deity and the multidimensional worlds to be invaded by the ruins emperor. They also didn't expect that tens of thousands of years later, a group of roots from the abandoned earth would rise to the sky and help them reclaim their homeland. These roots and veins were like sparks of fire. They rose with the light, but they were like inextinguishable kindling. The kindling ignited the grass ignited the shrubs, and the shrubs spread to the big trees. In the end, this tiny kindling would set off a prairie fire, illuminating the entire dark universe forest and illuminating the myriad worlds. In the eyes of the spectators, the spatial passageway was extremely majestic. Of course, the energy crystals needed for each teleportation were also massive. Jiang Tian was now the ruler of this world. With an order, he should have the power to topple mountains and overturn seas. All kinds of precious crystals filled the teleportation formations and activated them. Absolute Primordium Ruler, take care. Ding Lai, Jiang Yunhe, the leaders of the Stellar Sky Domain, the leaders of the major sects and families in the Chia world, and even the special envoys from the Kanglan world all came to see him off. Ding Lai's eyes were solemn. Ding Lingdang's eyes were also filled with tears. Her body was trembling. This was the first time since Jiang Tian returned that he had traveled through space across galaxies. He had traversed billions of miles, a distance of 4 light years, and finally arrived at the outer region of the Southern Gate twin stars. The future was boundless, full of dangers and the unknown. Jiang Tian was originally a human from Earth. However, he was risking his life today to fight for Earth and for them. Absolute Primordium Ruler, don't worry. We'll protect the 3-dimensional worlds and be the last fortress of Earth. Jiang Yunhe had been tempered by the flames of war and had become deep and strong. He waved his hand and said. Jiang Tian glanced at the crowd and said with a faint smile, I'm sorry. Don't worry. I won't return until I slay the ruins emperor. In 3 years, this battle will end. This star domain will be peaceful and peaceful for thousands of years. The first step to conquering the Sea of Stars has finally been taken today. Bai Zhe calmed his emotions. He wasn't afraid. Instead, his eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. He rubbed his palms and was eager to try. Chapter 1359. It was Bai Zhe's first time walking out of this world, and it was his first step out of the solar system. It would be strange if he wasn't excited. We're going on our way. The large black dog shouted excitedly. We're going to the Dragon Gate, Hylon, and the ruins of immortality. I'm going to take the Azure the Arch as my pet, the ruins emperor as my mount, and eat 10,000 golden cores to grow fat. Everyone walked into a space aircraft that looked like a flying saucer. Only Jiang Tian was left outside. He scanned the people who were sending him off and smiled. Fellow Taoists, I'll leave Earth to you. At this moment, he actually felt a little reluctant. He was from Earth, but he had formed deep friendships with many cultivators from Stellar Sky Domain. Many cultivators from Stellar Sky Domain were like the humans on Earth. They were full of iron and blood and fought for freedom. They were unwilling to be slaves or servants. No matter how high or low their cultivation was, Jiang Tian would not look down on them because of that. Without their protection, Earth might have been lost long ago. Take me with you. Don't go, big brother Jiang, Qiao Yingluo cried out in tears, but she was forcefully dragged away by Qiao Beishan. Qiao Beishan's eyes were slightly red as he said seriously, besides, the stinky monkey, Jiang Haishan, goddess Miayu, and so many other Taoists died under the Jade Pool's cannon fire. The Grand Primordium Ruler is going to take revenge for them. Using martial arts to stop killing, using killing to stop war. The Grand Primordium Ruler is doing this to prevent billions of lives from being destroyed. His merit is boundless. Zen Master Deshin was no longer as skinny as before. He had already become fat, and his body was huge. His expression was compassionate, and his appearance was solemn. After experiencing the cruel war, the suppression of his sect, and the betrayal of his friends, he seemed to have been reborn. His Buddhist heart was even firmer, and his state of mind was more peaceful. His understanding of Buddhism had also reached a new level. He already had the bearing of a great master and was the #1 leader of the Buddhist sects in the 3 realms. Big Brother Jiang is taking the initiative to attack for the safety of this world. Besides, he can't go any further in these worlds. Beside him, Fairy Miao Yi also comforted him gently. Her eyes were very calm, hiding the reluctance in her heart. If Jiang Tian wanted to complete the 9 transformations of the divine disc and form the nascent soul, he would need a lot of resources. These 4th-level dimensional worlds, and even the world of Earth with its spirit chi recovery, could no longer support Jiang Tian's cultivation. The spirit chi and resources were far from enough. But when she turned her head away, tears were already flowing down her cheeks. Jiang Tian was her beautiful dream. Once upon a time, she was deeply in love with Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian already had a Tao companion, and by a freak combination of factors, he was destined to have no fate with her in this lifetime. She now understood that she wasn't worthy of Jiang Tian, so she hid this admiration in the depths of her heart. Sigh, what a pity. The flames of war were in full swing ahead. Time waited for no one. I can't even return to Earth to say goodbye to Qing'er and Beibei. Looking at the blue planet outside the strict world membrane, Jiang Tian revealed a look of deep longing and reluctance. Then, his eyes were filled with boundless determination as he stepped into the disc-shaped flying device. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, Power Array Pattern detected, no cracks. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, Teleportation Coordinates detected, no errors. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, Expedition Space Flying Device, no errors. The heroes of Heavenly Star, Sanglan, and Scarlet Field, the leaders of many great sects and powerful countries, and the heads of various sects and clans were all standing around the teleportation array. Their expressions were solemn as they looked at the disc-shaped flying device with reverence. In the entire Universal Pier, the powerful voice of an array master could be heard from the teleportation array platform. Scarlet Field Galaxy Teleportation Array, ignited for the 198th time, teleporting to the Dragon Gate world. Activate the reaction furnace, ignite. Following the last calm and indifferent voice of the Scarlet Field Engineering Department official, the 55 reaction furnaces were fully activated. Immediately, many runes on the teleportation array platform lit up dazzlingly, as if a sun had risen out of thin air. All of the world-breaking and advancement arrays were activated at the same time. The gigantic bronze disc-shaped space-flying device slowly rose into the sky as a heart-palpitating power was emitted, causing the space to fluctuate violently. At this moment, everyone felt their vision turn black as their senses were completely shut off. They lost all sound, senses, and colors. Between heaven and earth, only the dazzling teleportation array platform and the small black dot above it remained, the disc-shaped flying device. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. When the light of the teleportation array platform gradually disappeared, everyone saw the final shocking scene. At that moment, the world was in chaos, the mountains and rivers were boiling, the light of the stars and the sun was distorted, and the world barrier that was originally suspended high up in the sky seemed to be pulled infinitely closer by the teleportation array platform. An extremely thin and long spike caved in inwards, touching the bronze disc-shaped space-flying device. This spike was crystal clear, one end wrapped around the bronze flying device, and the other end extended towards the vast starry sky and the deep universe. Even with Lotus Life Tathagata's nascent soul divine sense, he still couldn't scan the end, as if it was endless and boundless. This is the world whole. It belongs to the same substance as the space barrier and the world membrane, and it binds the world membrane of the two worlds together. Lotus Life Tathagata's face was shocked as he said in a solemn voice. Suddenly, there was a whoosh. The inwardly sunken world membrane, like a fully drawn bow, quickly bounced back. The bronze flying device was like an arrow that had left the bow, shooting straight into the sky and suddenly disappearing from everyone's sight. He's gone. After all, he doesn't belong to this world. Xiaoyingluo's body stiffened as she looked up at the world barrier that had already returned to normal. Her tears surged as she said in a daze. No. He will always belong to this world. No matter how far he goes, the Earth domain and the stellar sky domain will always be the places he dreams of, his foundation and homeland. Beside her, Fairy Miao Yi gently advised, as if comforting herself. Whoosh! In the depths of the universe hundreds of millions of miles away from the star world, there was no moonlight in the distance, and the stars were shining brightly. Nearby, however, there was only loneliness and coldness. All of a sudden, a blue ray of light flashed past. This green light was surrounded by a translucent tunnel, like a glass tube. However, as the green light flashed, the translucent tunnel suddenly disappeared, as if it had never existed. The South Gate star field was the closest star system to the solar system. There were no other stars between the two, only endless darkness, dried-up asteroids, and meteorites of all sizes. In the process of passing through the world hole, the flow of time was very distorted and chaotic. Sometimes, it was just a few seconds, but it felt like a century had passed, so long that it was maddening. Sometimes, it was indescribably fast, as if 100 years had passed in a hurry. This was a lonely universe, shuttling between two star systems. There was no sound at all, and it was so quiet that it was maddening. Everyone could only communicate with their divine senses and encourage each other. Sometimes, when passing through some areas with abnormal gravitational fields, even their divine senses would be cut off and weakened. What's that? There was a patch of chaos in front of them. It was misty, as if a glass of expired milk had been poured on top of pearl-like velvet. Baize's divine senses swept over and could not help but be amazed. Interstellar dust belt. We're not far from the Dragon Gate world, or the South Gate star field. Jiang Tian had actually discovered this before Baize. This dust belt was very vast, and there was no need to use divine senses at all. It could be seen through the crystal window with the naked eye. The so-called dust belt was the remains of solid matter that had not yet formed into a celestial body the size of a planet. It was made up of a large number of rocks, ice, mixtures, dust particles, and so on. From the smallest dust particle to a few kilometers in diameter asteroids, everything was in it. This dust belt was discovered by the ALMA Observatory in Chile on Earth last year using the world's most expensive astronomical radio telescope. According to scientists' observations, this dust belt was 1 light-year away from the South Gate star field. Its total mass was about 1% of Earth's mass, and its temperature was about -230 degrees Celsius. It could be imagined as the Kuiper belt outside the solar system. The solar system was only 4 light-years away from the South Gate star field, which was equivalent to more than half of the interstellar journey. What's this? Suddenly, Jiang Tian was shocked. Thousands of neatly arranged hollow marks appeared in an area of the dust belt, like sharp swords pointing in the direction of the solar system. Are these traces caused by human travel? Jiang Tian's eyes widened, and there was a trace of inexplicable uneasiness in his heart. For example, this dust belt was like a snowy land, and aircraft were like pedestrians. Once they passed through, they would leave footprints. Could it be that after we closed the world hole, the South Gate star field started to not use the world hole, but a more primitive, simpler, and violent method of interstellar travel to advance towards Earth? Jiang Tian's eyes flickered as he imprinted the situation of these interstellar dust ribbons deeply into his mind and murmured with his divine sense. What should we do? Hearing this, everyone was shocked and their divine senses trembled. Ordinary people, even astrophysicists, would find it unbelievable. However, as long as they reached 1% of the speed of light, it would only take them 400 years to travel across the 2 galaxies with their physical body. And the lifespan of a soul formation cultivator could reach 5,000 years or even longer. They could totally afford it. Besides, the cultivation world had many methods to condense blood and stop lifespan, petrify, and hibernate. They could also use flying Dharma artifacts. Also, it was impossible to determine when the traces on these dust belts were made. If they were made hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of years ago, Earth could be in danger at any time. Chapter 1360. After all, Earth had just recovered its spirit qi. Only nascent soul cultivator, Lian Sheng, was guarding the area. The rest were all golden core and false core cultivators. In the immortal ruins, there were countless nascent soul cultivators, soul formation cultivators, and even more ancient beings. They weren't even on the same level. It was like a 3-year-old fighting against Mike Tyson. How could they not be frightened? How could they not be worried? I've never noticed those dust belts either. I used to travel through the world passage. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon and the others were confused and shocked. Although they lived in the dimension of the South Gate binary star system, they knew nothing about that. Jiang Tian turned a deaf ear to it and fell into deep thought. What was the ruins emperor planning? Why were they eyeing Earth covetously? The arrival of the ancient deities, the beginning of interstellar wandering, the ruins emperor's invasion of the deity ground, and the arrival of the white-robed deity 30 years ago, and the fiend fetus being conceived were just occasional occurrences, or were they closely related to each other? Was it a scheme set up by someone behind the scenes? Jiang Tian looked at the dust belts with deep eyes as if he were looking at fog. There are two sides to this. We have to be calm. After we reach the immortal ruins, everything will be revealed one day. In the end, Jiang Tian comforted everyone and put those thoughts behind him. In his previous life, after Jiang Tian became a soul formation cultivator, he had used a flying ship given to him by his master to break through space and return to Earth. Although Earth had gone through some twists and turns back then and there had been a few technological explosions, at least it was still in a safe state and hadn't reached the point of civilization destruction. Jiang Tian's return in this life might have triggered some butterfly effects, but those changes were limited to Earth and a few low-level dimensions. They didn't extend beyond the stellar system and weren't enough to change the trajectory of interstellar history. It seems that we're about to enter the boundary of another world. After some time, Jiang Tian suddenly said in a deep voice. In front of them, the void was shaking violently and the world passage was mottled. All kinds of colors flickered dreamily. The runes inside the flying saucer flickered violently, releasing thousands of rays of light and auspicious colors as if it were about to collapse. Everyone also felt the extreme distortion and pulling force of the space, as if it was about to fall apart. Master, lay down the myriad stone cauldron. The true dragon ancestor warned with experience. Yes. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed and he summoned the myriad stone cauldron, causing it to float in the air. In an instant, countless strands of the primordial chaos aura descended like threads, and it firmly enveloped all of them as a precaution. It's the Dragon Gate world. True Dragon Patriarch's voice was choked with emotion. After thousands of years, he'd finally returned to his homeland. He was overwhelmed with emotions, and he was unable to express them with words. How could he not be excited and emotionally moved? Everyone looked over in shock. At the edge of a vast and desolate galaxy, a vast and wondrous world could be seen from afar. This world was extremely vast, with a radius of at least tens of thousands of miles. It was actually a body of water that floated in the desolate universe. Flood dragons, sea snakes, and other huge sea beasts were swimming in the vast ocean. There were many strange peaks that protruded above the water surface, forming many deity islands. These islands were scattered all over the place, and they were steep and strange. Vast and bright essence qi gushed out, and spirit springs fell like waterfalls. Clouds were rising, and in the foggy spirit qi, there were spirit beasts flying and beasts roaring. There were even cultivators flying across the sky on their swords from time to time. Tisk, tsk, tsk. The spirit qi here is much denser than in our fourth-level dimension. True dragon, how could you bear to leave? Bai Zhe exclaimed with a yearning look on his face. Arriving in this world meant that they had stepped out of the solar system and belonged to the Southern Gate star system. It was the first step to conquering the Sea of Stars, which made him very excited. True Dragon Patriarch was speechless and looked sad. Things had changed. His dynasty had been destroyed, and his descendants had been killed or exiled. It was a great sorrow to see his children die before him. At that moment, he regretted not running away. He should have stayed in this world and fought the Ruins Emperor and Azure the Arch-Chen to the death. Boom! Boom! The flying saucer shook violently and shattered into countless pieces by the gravity of the world membrane. Everyone felt their vision darken as the scenery before them changed rapidly. When the scenery stabilized, they realized that they had landed on a desolate island. Where is this? Bai Zhe looked around. The stars were bright, and there was no moon. The island was more than 10 miles wide, and it was empty. Only the roars of low-level beasts could be heard from afar. The grass nearby swayed, and there were butterflies the size of washbasins dancing. Their bronze flying saucer had shattered into pieces and fallen into the sea. This is Butterfly Island. The spirit chi is lacking, and there are many beasts. It's desolate and uninhabited. However, the nearest flourishing island, Kuan Sky Island, is only a few hundred miles away. We will know the situation of this world if we go there. True Dragon Patriarch knew the way and said in a deep voice. Kuan Sky Island was one of the 7 core islands of the Dragon Gate world. It was also one of the 7 major cities of the True Dragon Dynasty. With this island as the foundation, a magnificent and prosperous Kuan Sky City was built. In this Kuan Sky City, there was a famous royal chamber of commerce, the Cape Chamber of Commerce. It specialized in providing cultivation and daily necessities and treasures to the AO family. Its president was Xia Yan. He had reached the early stage Golden Core hundreds of years ago and was a peer of True Dragon Patriarch. He was his childhood friend and was very loyal and reliable. Let's go. If the Xia Yan you mentioned is still here, then we will soon find out the current situation. Jiang Tian nodded. As he spoke, he turned into a dazzling golden rainbow and soared into the sky. None of the soldiers Jiang Tian brought with him this time were weak. They were all at the nascent soul realm, and their flying speed was extremely fast. They could easily break through several times the speed of sound. This was the result of Jiang Tian and the others deliberately suppressing their cultivation in order to not attract attention. Several rays of multicolored light left long after images on the surface of the sea. They cut through the waves and streaked across the sky, heading toward Kuan Tian Island. Soon, everyone arrived above Kuan Sky Island. What a dreamlike city! The city spanned 50 kilometers. The roof was as huge as a mountain and was made of seashells, clam shells, and turtle shells. Most of the pillars were made of coral and embedded with basketball-sized pearls that emitted a gentle glow. On the streets, wine flags were waved and the lights were dazzling. Shrimp soldiers, shrimp generals, and fish-headed sea demons of all shapes and sizes walked, chatted, traded, and drank. It was terrifying yet adorable. If not for seeing it with one's own eyes, one would probably think it was a fairy tale world. The Dragon Gate world was originally dominated by the sea demons. To be precise, it was ruled by the sea flood dragons. The sea demons outnumbered humans by 10 times. But now, the ratio of humans seemed to be higher. However, many of these humans were not humans from ancient Earth. Instead, they were likely from the twin stars of the South Gate. They had high noses and deep eyes. Their hair was purple or green, and their eyes were deeper and colder. They should be the descendants of the Ruins Emperor. They have been in this world for many years. They have slowly infiltrated and are evolving peacefully. They want to dilute the bloodline of the sea demons. Eventually, this will be the Ruins Emperor's world. Jiang Tian's gaze was fixed as he sighed softly. The Ruins of Immortality was not a militaristic place. It also knew some conciliatory methods. Patriarch True Dragon and Old Black, follow me. The rest of you spread out to various parts of the city and gather information. The more, the better. Take note. It's not the time for the final battle yet. It's best to kill fewer people to avoid attracting attention. Jiang Tian ordered. Yes. Ta Kong, Mingi, and Bai Zai cupped their fists respectfully and dispersed silently. Jiang Tian, the big black dog, and Patriarch True Dragon escorted Long Yanan and flew towards the Kun Sky City's City Lord Manor. However, halfway there, Jiang Tian and True Dragon frowned. They saw that the surroundings of the Cape trading firm were heavily guarded. Sounds of fighting and killing could be heard from inside. Above Kun Sky City, Cape trading firm headquarters. Bang! Two Dharma forms exchanged blows quickly. The power was astonishing. The moment one of the Dharma powers of the giant crab was destroyed, a man with a head full of white hair retreated rapidly, clutching his chest. Blood oozed out of his mouth, and the shadow of a giant crab appeared around him. It was obvious that he was barely holding on by burning his blood. Opposite him, a handsome but sinister-looking young man was about to follow up with another attack. Sha Qianxiu, stop! Below, a woman cried out in heartache. After hearing this, the handsome young man sighed helplessly and said, "Since Tingran has spoken, I'll spare your life." A trace of greed flashed in his eyes. He smiled at Xia Tingran and said, "Tingran, have you changed your mind and are willing to marry me?" "In your dreams. I won't go with you even if you beat me to death." Xia Tingran shouted with a cold expression. Then, her eyes turned red. She looked at the tall young man beside her with tears in her beautiful eyes and said, "Huang Jing, could it be that you've also joined the dogs of the Billow World?" The tall young man, Huang Jing, looked ashamed, but when he thought of Sha Qianxiu's strength, he hardened his heart. "Miss Xia, the True Dragon AO family is completely finished. Why are you still stubbornly resisting?" "We didn't resist." At this moment, Xia Yan steadied himself and said angrily, "I'm just returning home. I'm just going to retire and return to my hometown. I'm just going to resign and become a commoner. But the ocean cover swordsman, Sun Bojun, forced me to be the city lord. Otherwise, he would kill my family. He's gone too far. Senior Xia, please show some respect. Sun Bojun is the imperial advisor of the Wanhai Empire. He's only below one person and above everyone else. What right do you have to call him by his name?" Sha Qianxiu's face turned cold. He shouted harshly. "Moreover, Imperial Advisor Sun asked you to be an official because he gave you face. But you didn't know how to appreciate his kindness and spoke rudely. If I don't kill you, who will I kill? Imperial Advisor Sun gave you many resources and techniques, and even promoted you. He said all kinds of nice things, but you're still stubborn and stubborn. If I don't kill you, who will I kill?" Chapter 1361. I'd rather die than be a slave to a fallen country. Xia Yan shouted angrily. This world belongs to the AO family of the True Dragon. It's also the roots of the AO Emperor. Tens of thousands of years ago, the AO Emperor led the ancestors to fight against the ruins of immortality and shed their blood. 1,000 years ago, the True Dragon Patriarch, AO Feng, fell into an unknown world and cut ties with the ruins of immortality. As their descendants and people, we should respect the spirit of the ancestors and draw a line between us and trash like Sun Bojun. We should fight to the death with Hai Lan and the ruins of immortality. However, your Sha family was once an important official under the True Dragon Patriarch. Your bloodline was stimulated by the True Dragon Patriarch and your cultivation techniques were bestowed by him. Yet, you were ungrateful and attacked the Patriarch's descendant, becoming the disciple of the Patriarch's enemy, Sun Bojun. This old man has never seen someone as shameless as you. Bullshit. Sha Qianxiu interrupted with a sneer. Who is the True Dragon Patriarch? He's been dead for 1,000 years. Even his bones have melted. Who knows him? How dare you call me shameless? Old bastard, you've successfully infuriated me. Originally, I wanted to spare your life for Tingran's sake. But since you're so stubborn, I'll kill you. I'll make Xia Tingran the lowest servant and torture her every day. Sha Qianqiu, you're lying. The true dragon patriarch won't die. He'll definitely come back and avenge us. Xia Yan shouted angrily as he clutched his chest and spat out blood. I'm lying. Sha Qianqiu's face was full of mockery. You only know that Ao Feng went into seclusion. But do you know where he has gone? Ao Feng entered the Luai's realm through the Gate of Destinies. My ancestors saw it with their own eyes. And a year ago, we found Ao Wushuang's corpse in there. Although Ao Wushuang wasn't a direct descendant, he was still Ao Feng's descendant. If he was still alive, how could he sit back and watch his son be killed? He would either die in the mouth of Lei Meng or pass away in that chaotic realm. In short, there is no possibility of him returning. With every word Sha Qianqiu spoke, Xia Yan and Xia Tingren's faces grew paler. By the time he finished speaking, their faces were as white as paper and filled with despair. Huang Jing also sighed and tried to persuade him. Her words were sincere. Ancestor, young miss, today is different from usual. The emissary of the Below Sea world took action to suppress them. The true dragon bloodline has been severed. Our world is in a precarious situation. Everyone has to forget the past and look to the future. I'm told that a lot of nascent soul stage cultivators and nascent soul stage cultivators have been sent to suppress and screen them one last time. Stubbornness will only lead to death. Xia Tingran lowered her head and didn't say a word. She bit her lip with her snow-white teeth, almost bleeding. At this moment, Sha Qianqiu sighed and softened his tone. Tingran, I also know that a forcibly picked melon is not sweet. As long as Senior Xia Yan agrees to take the position of City Lord, I will no longer force you. In the future, I will only care for you like an older brother. What do you think? Xia Yan clutched his dantian with a look of despair. Sha Qianqiu's cultivation was originally much lower than his, but after receiving benefits from Jade Lake and Below Sea World, his cultivation had risen steadily. He was now at the peak stage of the Golden Core stage. Xia Yan, the servants and guards of his family were definitely not his match. Forget it. Forget it. I'll fight to the death with him and let Tingran escape. The Xia family is full of heroes. How can I give myself to an evil person like Jade Lake and Below Sea World? With that thought, Xia Yan swallowed a healing pill. Determination appeared in his eyes. He wasn't afraid of death. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded. Who said I died in the Thunderlock realm? Everyone looked up and saw. An old man in an old green robe, with horns on his head and a pair of clear eyes, was flying over. Behind him was a young man in luxurious clothes, holding a folding fan in his hand, and looking carefree and even sloppy. There was also a young woman in the prime of her youth who looked aggrieved and timid. Everyone's expression changed when they saw the old man. Who is he? Huang Jing blurted out with a panicked expression. Sha Qianqiu's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with extreme shock. You're finally back. Xia Yan, who was clutching his chest, burst into tears. He struggled to fall to the ground and kowtowed to the true dragon ancestor. Get up. Patriarch True Dragon stood proudly in the air, his expression dark. The entire City Lord Manor was filled with blood and corpses. It was filled with a cruel and murderous aura. More than half of Xia Yan's family had been killed. The rest had become Sha Qianqiu's captives and were controlled and guarded by cultivators. True Dragon, it seems that the world has changed greatly in the 1,000 years you were gone. Jiang Tian looked at the cultivators behind Sha Qianqiu with interest. They were all wearing robes with a ripple pattern embroidered on their chests. The ripple formed a giant hand holding a dragon. It was the symbol of the Dragon Gate cultivators in the Below Sea world. But now, they were standing behind Sha Qianqiu to deal with the Dragon Gate. Master, it's the old man's fault. I shouldn't have placed my hopes on Lei Meng and avoided the world. I should have guarded this place without fear of death. Patriarch True Dragon's face reddened. Under the shocked gazes of the crowd, he bowed deeply to Jiang Tian and said respectfully, "Master, please rest for a while. I'll ask about the current situation after I clean up the sect. Go. Since you're my servant, this world should be my territory. If someone is too strong for you, I'll help them." Jiang Tian landed on the roof of a hall and sat down lazily. He took out the Thunderfire wine and took a sip. "Young master, please enjoy." Long Yanan, on the other hand, was like the most considerate servant girl. She arranged the dishes and stood behind Jiang Tian. "What's going on? What kind of status and strength does this old man have? Why is he so respectful to this young man? Who is he?" Sha Qianqiu was puzzled. Xia Tingren's mind was also in a mess. This young man didn't release any magic power. He either has a noble status or is skilled in concealing his aura. In short, our Dragon Gate world has hope again. Xia Yan's eyes shone brightly as he glanced at Jiang Tian. He clenched his fists and became spirited. Then, he spoke with his spiritual sense. "Patriarch, Sha Qianqiu is also involved in Ao Bo's death. Kill him." "Sha Qianqiu, back then, you and your family received a lot of favors from me. Back then, you and your family swore to be loyal to the Ao family and fight for the Dragon Gate world forever. But you repaid kindness with enmity and attacked the Ao family. Kill yourself to atone for your sins." Patriarch True Dragon roared angrily, his eyes almost dripping blood. "True Dragon, I respect you, so I call you senior. If I don't respect you, you're just a pile of old bones that should be stuffed into a coffin. What right do you have to ask me to kill myself?" Sha Qianqiu waved his sleeves and stood with his hands behind his back. His face was cold and his eyes were full of disdain. He said, "Let me give you a piece of advice. If you know what's good for you, you'd better surrender and apologize to the imperial advisor. If you repent sincerely and become a slave forever, you might be able to keep your life." He had also carefully observed Patriarch True Dragon's cultivation. The powerful Patriarch True Dragon seemed to be only at the Foundation establishment level. He must have been injured in the dangerous Thunderlock world and his cultivation fell. Therefore, he didn't take Patriarch True Dragon seriously. Die. The True Dragon Patriarch was so angry that he was about to explode. Suddenly, he straightened his back and his essence chi surged. He went from Foundation establishment to Golden Core, Late Stage Golden Core, Nascent Soul, and so on. At this moment, the sky changed color and the stars turned upside down. In his dantian, the dragon-shaped Nascent Soul roared and turned into a dragon god 100 feet tall with a dragon head and a human body. He slapped down with a sharp bone hook and a giant palm covered in dragon scales. What? He's a Nascent Soul cultivator. Sha Qianqiu was terrified. Before he could unleash half of his Dharma form, it was crushed by Patriarch True Dragon's palm. Then, even his body and golden core were crushed. Before he died, he was still in disbelief, as if he had never thought that he would die in the hands of a true dragon. Nascent Soul. Whether it was Huang Jing, the other Dragon Gate cultivators, or even the Hai Long cultivators, they were all shocked to see this. Sha Qianqiu was the son of the giant Shark King and had been taught by overlords like Sun Bojun. However, he couldn't even withstand one attack from Patriarch True Dragon. How could they not be afraid? Only Xia Yan and Xia Tingran were elated. Ah! Patriarch True Dragon, please spare our lives. This was all ordered by the giant Shark King. We were just following orders. We didn't have the power to resist. The cultivators of Dragon Gate were scared out of their wits. They knelt down and begged for mercy. In fact, we have been waiting for your return. You were just pretending to be nice to him to preserve your strength. Now that you are back and have reached the Nascent Soul level, you can take back this world with a snap of your fingers. We are willing to follow you and kill the traitors like the Black Shark King, Sun Bojun, and the other cultivators of Jade Lake. We will make a contribution and shed our last drop of blood for the Dragon Gate world. Some of the cultivators of Dragon Gate said shamelessly and flew to Ao Feng like slaves meeting their master. The Dragon Blade Hall is the elite of the Dragon Gate dynasty. Without the orders of the Realm Lord, you can't command them. Sha Shouzhua is just the Lord of the Seven Islands. Why do you have to listen to him? You are just a coward. The true Dragon Patriarch was enraged. He killed until his eyes turned red and he smashed dozens of cultivators into pieces with a single palm. Jiang Tian finally noticed that the cultivators were carrying dragon-shaped sabers on their backs and wearing flying dragon robes. He thought that the Dragon Blade Hall was probably a special force like the Imperial Secret Service that only answered to the Ao family and the Emperor. Run! When the remaining cultivators saw that he had gone mad, they knew that it was useless to beg for mercy, so they no longer begged for mercy. They stepped on their swords and turned around. Like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers, they fled in all directions like meteors. Kill! The true Dragon Patriarch was enraged. His body shook, and hundreds of basin-sized dragon scales shot out in all directions like shrapnel, spinning and slicing toward Yiqingyu. Chapter 1362. Whoosh! Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, many of the traders and cultivators from the below-sea world were pierced through by the dragon scales. Not a single one escaped, and all of them died a violent death. Whoosh! 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 Many dragon scales flew into the air and embedded themselves into the true Dragon Patriarch's body. After that, his figure shrank, and he once again returned to the appearance of a stooped old servant in a green robe. He stood behind Jiang Tian, as if the tragic deaths of over 100 cultivators had nothing to do with him. Xia Yan hurriedly flew up and bowed respectfully. Young Master, Patriarch, please enter the secret room for a chat. The situation was very complicated now. The Jade Lake, Ocean Wave World, and the Dragon Gate Resistance Army had planted spies in each other's camps. The return of the true Dragon Patriarch to the Dragon Gate world was a big deal. Once the news spread, the earth would shake and the mountains would shake. The cultivators of the Jade Lake, Ocean Wave World, and the Dragon Gate rebels would fight back crazily. Just say it. No one can hear or see it. Jiang Tian raised his hand and waved, activating the Forbidden Region. A white mist spread out, enveloping the few of them and forming a barrier, immediately blocking out all images and sounds. Xia Tingran and the people in the residence couldn't sense what was happening in the white mist barrier. Is this a forbidden realm or an array? But it's too magical and amazing. This person is so young, but he has such a powerful cultivation. Where did he come from? Xia Yan was shocked and couldn't believe it. But there was no time to think. Xia Yan immediately knelt on the ground and said with tears in his eyes, "This sinner welcomes the return of the true Dragon Patriarch." Xia Yan, get up. Speak slowly. The true Dragon Patriarch raised his hand and said after killing many traitors. However, Xia Yan did not get up. His face was filled with shame. He buried his head on the ground, trembled, and wailed. This sinner is useless. I watched the disciples of the Ao family being killed, the true dragon sect being destroyed, and the people of this world dying. Patriarch, please give me death. The true Dragon Patriarch's eyes flashed with a trace of regret, then he asked in a deep voice, "Where's that child, Xia Tinghai?" Half a month ago, my son argued with the giant Shark King during the court assembly, calling him a traitor. He was killed by Sha Shou in a fit of rage. The giant Shark King is now the king of this world. Xia Yan's eyes were filled with tears as his body trembled as he complained. Hey, brother Xia Yan, get up. Tinghai died for the real dragon dynasty, and you were severely injured. How can I blame you? If you want to talk about crimes, I'm the one who's guilty. If I had guarded this world, Hai Lan Realm and the Jade Lake Realm wouldn't have been able to kill so many people and commit so many evil deeds. Tears flickered in the eyes of the true Dragon Patriarch. He looked up at the sky and sighed. Then, he helped Xia Yan up. After that, Xia Yan calmed himself down and bowed before Jiang Tian, explaining the situation to him. The current situation in the Dragon Gate world was not much different from what they had found in the Kanglin realm. At present, the True Dragon sect and the Ao family's dynasty had been destroyed by the cultivators of Jade Lake and Hailan. Many of their disciples had either been killed or captured. Although some had escaped during the chaos, they were homeless and had lost contact with them. However, the cultivation of the swordsman Fuhai and the giant shark king was different from what they had heard before. With the help of Jade Lake and Hailan, their cultivation had increased greatly and they had reached the early stage nascent soul realm in just a few years. The Jade Lake special envoy turned out to be Chen Bahuang, Chen Liuha's brother and the new crown prince of the Jade Lake realm. He had just come out of seclusion and was very powerful, with many masters helping him secretly. "Master, what should we do now?" Although the true dragon was sad and eager for revenge, it still respectfully asked Jiang Tiandao for instructions. Jiang Tian sat lazily on the roof. He wore a long robe and looked carefree. He took a sip of the thunderfire wine and muttered to himself for a moment. "Kill the giant shark king, Sha Shouzhua, the swordsman Fuhai's son Bojun and the special envoy of Jade Lake, Chen Bahuang, of course. Once the main evils are eliminated, the rest are easy to deal with." "But where are the three of them now?" "Young master, it's difficult. Sha Shouzhua is very cunning and they don't have a fixed place to stay. It's hard to find them." Xia Yan knew that Jiang Tian had a special identity and was even the master of ancestral patriarch True Dragon, so he bowed respectfully and said, "What?" Jiang Tian looked calm, as if he wasn't surprised. But ancestral patriarch True Dragon was already frightened and shouted with a frown. Once a nascent soul overlord decided to hide, it was almost impossible to find them. It was very troublesome to find them with powerful chi concealment arts or dharma treasures. But they could command in the dark or attack your family and friends. That would be very troublesome. "Young master, ancestral patriarch, although the giant shark king, Sha Shouzhua, has been the king for a few years, this world is unstable. Loyal people often appear to assassinate the three of them. If they can't kill them, they kill their disciples and family." Xia Yan hurriedly said. 7 days ago, Sha Shouzhua was enjoying the flowers on White Waterfall Island when he was assassinated by the Grand Tutor of the Dragon Gate world, Yinluan Dharmaraja. Although Yinluan Dharmaraja wasn't his match and his dantian was shattered, he still killed a few of Sha Shouzhua's beauties and one of his disciples. There are many similar assassinations. So, in order to avoid the assassination, Sha Shouzhua and the others are very low-key and secretive. They only command in the dark and give orders from behind the scenes. Countless people with lofty ideals hate him so much that their teeth itch, but they can't do anything about it. Yinluan Dharmaraja is also dead. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon was sad and angry, but there was nothing he could do in front of the three cunning people. He could only look at Jiang Tian and ask, "Master, the enemy is cunning and doesn't come out. What can we do?" "Simple." Jiang Tian looked at Long Yanan indifferently and said leisurely, "The little princess of the Dragon Gate world is in our hands. Are you afraid that they won't come out? Let's find a spacious place and strip this woman clean. Any man can get close to her. I don't believe that Sun Bojun and the other bastards won't come out to rescue her." "What? She's the little princess of the Dragon Gate world?" Xia Yan looked at Long Yanan, who was dressed like a maid behind Jiang Tian and said in disbelief. Ever since the war with Hai Lan and Jade Lake, the Dragon Gate world had suffered repeated defeats and suffered heavy losses. The cultivators of Hai Lan were extremely powerful and specialized in restraining the Dragon Clan and the Demon Clan. They were invincible and swept away all obstacles. The Dragon Gate world was the most powerful Heavenly Lord sect among the many imperishable sects in Hai Lan. It was called the Heavenly Sect. This was the 9 Dragons Emperor technique. When used, one could control the 9 Dragons Dharma idol. It was extremely powerful and unpredictable. Relying on this technique, the Dragon sect suppressed the 9 heavens and 10 earths, sweeping through all directions. They looked down on the entire below-sea world for tens of thousands of years, and billions of people prostrated themselves in worship. But this maid before him was actually the little princess of the nightmare dragon lineage of the Halon world. Clearly, she had been captured by this young master and reduced to a prisoner. Where did this young master come from? He's so powerful. In a blink, Xia Yan couldn't help but look at Jiang Tian as if he had seen a ghost. He was also curious about Jiang Tian's background. You. When Long Yanan heard this, she was so scared that her face turned bitter and she almost cried. She felt chills all over her body and she couldn't help but tremble. He only felt that the current Jiang Tian was inhumane, like a demon. Master, that's a great plan. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon clapped and laughed. Why did Sun Bojun come out to rescue her after we took off her clothes? I think we should kill her. I'll put a spicy hot pot next to her and eat it. It's more exciting that way. Black as saliva flowed. Idiot. If we want to eat her, we have to take off her clothes first. Jiang Tian said with a smile. At this time, a figure appeared like a ghost. It was Bai Zhe who had broken through the Forbidden Zone barrier and flew over. He landed behind Jiang Tian, bowed and reported, "My lord, it's still not enough. We still need to make a lot of preparations before that." What's the problem? Jiang Tian asked. I heard a news in the city. Dragon girl Ao Jiao has been captured, Bai Zhe said. True Dragon was surprised and worried. He said with a trembling voice, "That's Ao Bo's daughter. My granddaughter. She's still alive. She's still alive. But the situation is not good." Bai Zhe frowned and said. Ao Jiao and more than 10 descendants of the Ao family have been captured. Sun Bojun plans to hold an auction on the 18 Island in a month's time, and sell them off as cultivation vessels or slaves. What a vicious Sun Bojun. Ao Feng, the true dragon ancestral patriarch, said through gritted teeth. His eyes turned red and he almost spat out blood. Female cultivators who were sold as slaves would be humiliated and abused. Their essence blood and essence qi would be gradually extracted by their masters and used as nourishment for the latter's cultivation. In the end, their essence blood and essence qi would dry up and they would become like mummies. They might even go insane and become ghosts. It was a fate worse than death. So, we should save Ao Jiao and the other descendants of the Ao family first, then use Long Yanan as our trump card. Otherwise, the hostages are still in their hands. First, we have to be careful. Second, they also have a bargaining chip to exchange the hostages. We might not be able to force them out. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed. He took a sip of the Thunderfire wine and asked, "Now, where are the hostages?" "That's top secret. I didn't find out either." Bai Zhe shook his head. At this time, ancestral patriarch Takong also flew over like a ghost. He cupped his fists and said, "Master, this old man has received news that the teleportation array between Yaoqi and Hailan to Dragon Gate territory has been opened several times recently. A large number of nascent soul overlords may have arrived." A trap. It's another trap. Jiang Tian closed the folding fan in his right hand and slapped it against his left palm, making a crisp sound. He smiled leisurely and said, "Combining these two pieces of news together with the fact that the teleportation arrays from the Heavenly Star Realm, Kanglan Realm, and Chiye Realm to the Jade Lake world were deliberately closed, we can infer that they deliberately lured us to the Dragon Gate world and held this auction with great fanfare. They also wanted to lure us out and kill the cultivators guarding the Dragon Gate. If I'm not mistaken, a large number of cultivators from Yaoqi and Hailan should have arrived at Dragon Gate territory through the teleportation array and gathered at the auction site." Ha, this is a gathering of the winds and clouds. Chapter 1363. Master, you're really smart. Then, ancestral patriarch Acheron also appeared and whispered. After I received the news, I went to the 18 Island to take a look. A large number of golden core cultivators were secretly mobilized and flew over. There were more than 100 of them. There are even a dozen nascent soul cultivators, but that's not all. What should we do? Hearing this, Xia Yan was shocked. His expression changed drastically as he looked helplessly at Jiang Tian. There were so many nascent soul heavenly lords and 100 golden core perfected cultivators. Once they attacked, they could turn half of the dragon gate upside down. It was a deadly trap. But if they didn't go, Sun Bojun would torture and humiliate the disciples of the AO family. It wasn't as simple as humiliating the AO family. He would be riding on the heads of the loyal cultivators of the Dragon Gate and completely destroying their morale. Moreover, once the news spread out, it would definitely attract a large number of loyal and brave cultivators like Silverwheel Fuwang from the Dragon Gate to rescue them. This was equivalent to sticking out one's head for others to chop off. The losses would be disastrous. But if they really went to the rescue, their chances of winning would be very low and they might even be wiped out. It's okay. Just kill them. Jiang Tian's face was calm. He rolled up his sleeves, revealing his snow-white fist, and said calmly, "That's right. What tricks are you talking about? They're all trash in front of absolute power. No matter how many tricks they have, I'll destroy them with one punch." What? You still want to go to the rescue? Ancestral Patriarch, that's too risky. Xia Yan almost fell to the ground after hearing that. He then looked at Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon in fear, hoping that he would persuade him. There were only a handful of nascent soul cultivators and 100 golden core cultivators. With such a luxurious lineup, it could be said to be an inescapable net. Even if you were extremely capable, once you entered, you would only have one life left. Even if the True Dragon Patriarch was a nascent soul realm cultivator, he would not be able to handle it. After all, the True Dragon Patriarch was only at the first level of the nascent soul realm. He was loyal and devoted to the AO family. Of course, he wanted to rescue the bloodline of the AO family. However, there was a huge disparity in strength between him and the enemy. He thought that he shouldn't act rashly and confront the enemy head-on. Instead, he should find out where the AO family's descendants were imprisoned and attack them when they least expected it. However, the True Dragon Patriarch did not try to persuade Jiang Tian. Instead, he bowed deeply and said gratefully, "Thank you for your help, my lord. I will never forget your kindness. This time, we must kill the traitors of the Dragon Gate and the cultivators of the Jade Lake and High Lawn. Old ancestor, may I know what young master's cultivation is?" Xia Yan was extremely anxious. He quickly bowed and asked. "It can be considered a Jindan," Jiang Tian said calmly. Xia Yan was stunned. This young master was only a Golden Core Realm cultivator. Why did the True Dragon ancestor recognize him as his master? What was his background? Young master, even if you have a powerful background, in the end, strength and fists are the most important thing on the battlefield. You're just a Golden Core Realm cultivator. If you go in recklessly, you'll only die. Xia Yan said earnestly. Originally, this kind of competition between dimensional worlds was too high-end, and Xia Yan had no right to interrupt at all. However, the situation was very bad right now. Jiang Tian and the others were walking right into the trap. Xia Yan was too worried and couldn't help but frown and try to persuade him again. What's so great about a few nascent soul realm cultivators? I can kill them with a wave of my hand. Jiang Tian took a sip of the Thunder Fire wine and snickered. Don't worry. Xia Yan, my lord's power is beyond your imagination. The True Dragon Patriarch comforted him. Ah. Xia Yan heaved a sigh and didn't try to persuade him again. He was loyal to the True Dragon Patriarch and would follow him to the end no matter what decision he made. Jiang Tian scattered the white fog barrier and landed in the courtyard. He raised his hand, and flames surged out, burning the many broken weapons, broken swords, and messy corpses to ashes. When the sea breeze blew, they immediately disappeared without a trace. Young Master and Ancestral Patriarch, thank you for saving our lives. We will never forget your kindness. Xia Tingran came with many family members, guards and soldiers and bowed to Jiang Tian and ancestral patriarch True Dragon. Don't mention it. Jiang Tian nodded and then flicked his finger. Many black soul-swallowing immortal wills were released and deleted the memories of Xia Tingran and the others. Seeing the black tentacles dancing in the air, Xia Tingran and the others rolled their eyes and suddenly fainted. Xia Yan was startled and asked anxiously, "Senior, be careful." Jiang Tian waved his fan and said, "Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon is back today. Today, the True Dragon Ancestor has returned. Although no one has called out his name from the beginning to the end, it is very likely that some people have guessed it. So, I deleted all their memories of tonight. Don't worry, it won't harm their immortal wills. Some of them are just ordinary people. There will be a lot of life and death battles in the future, so there's no need to bring them along. It's better to send them away." Another series of arrangements. "Young master, this is a good move. I understand. No one will know the identity of Ancestral Patriarch and you from now on." Xia Yan bowed and said. At this moment, he was even more suspicious. This young master's attitude was domineering like a god, but he was meticulous and meticulous. It was really strange. "Wake up." Jiang Tian snapped his fingers. With a light crack, Xia Tingran and the others woke up. Xia Tingran looked around blankly. Her gaze swept past Jiang Tian and the True Dragon Patriarch, but she didn't stop for long. Then, she hurriedly walked in front of Xia Yan and whispered, "Patriarch, we can't stay here any longer." Even though her memories of tonight had been deleted, her subconscious was still there. She had almost died just now and her heart was filled with fear. "I know." Xia Yan nodded and quickly dismissed the servants, and guards. Those guards were only at Qi Refinement and Half-Step Foundation establishment, and there were only a dozen of them. Facing Golden Core and Nascent Soul enemies, it would be difficult for them to protect themselves. With Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon, there was no need to bring them along. After everyone dispersed, Xia Tingran looked at Jiang Tian and said, "Who are they? Why are you bringing them along?" Xia Yan sighed in his heart. Jiang Tian's immortal wills were really magical. It seemed that her memories had been completely deleted. He immediately followed Jiang Tian's arrangement and said lightly, "This is young Master Jiang, and this is his follower, Feng Ao. They came from the Class 4 Kanglin world to seek refuge in this world." This Feng Ao was, of course, an alias. It was a homonym of Ao Feng. The identity of Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon could not be revealed easily. Kanglin world. Is it appropriate to bring them along? This world is vast, let them fend for themselves. Before Xia Yan finished, Xia Tingran was disappointed. She looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and said with her immortal wills. Kanglin world was a low-level world near the desolate solar system. It was like a remote village without many overlords and golden core cultivators were rare. This young Master Jiang looked ordinary. His clothes were luxurious and shiny, but they were all ordinary clothes. His energy was dirty and he didn't have the temperament of an overlord. He was probably only at Qi Refinement and Foundation establishment. She had thought that some overlord had come to help, but now it seemed that they were just two burdens. How unlucky. Xia Yan was startled. He couldn't figure out Jiang Tian's background, but he didn't dare to disrespect the True Dragon. He quickly said, "Tingran, be careful with your words. These two are close to me. They have to come with us no matter what." Just as Xia Yan was about to persuade him again, a group of cultivators in dragon-scale armor suddenly rushed over on dragon horses like a whirlwind. They occupied various strategic locations in the City Lord Mansion and stood with their hands on their swords. They were all at the Foundation establishment level or even stronger. "Who are you?" "General Shao is here in person. He has suppressed thousands of races. If you don't want to die, kneel and surrender." The cultivators scolded Jiang Tian and the others before opening up a path. It was as though they were waiting for some big shot to arrive. Soon, a handsome man in a black-colored iron armor of ice, a saber with dragon patterns hanging from his waist, and a blood-red cloak walked over with large strides. He emanated a ghastly killing intent and an extraordinary bearing, and he gave others the feeling of being cold like a mountain and filled with arrogance that shot into the sky. Brother Shao. You're finally here. Seeing him, Xia Tingren's eyes lit up and a look of deep admiration appeared on her face. She quickly went to greet him as if she had seen a real god. What General Shao? How dare you disrespect my master? Do you want to die? Jiang Tian's expression did not change as he watched coldly. However, Bai Zai's face was filled with anger as he leaped out from the dark and shouted loudly. Bastard! What did you say? How dare you disrespect General Shao? Do you want to die? The cultivators in dragon scale armor shouted and pulled out their swords. A cold light flashed and the bright sword light illuminated the entire courtyard. Humph! You're so arrogant. Xiao Bing's eyes narrowed and a sharp light surged. He let out a cold snort and a murderous aura overflowed from his body. His true essence erupted like a torrential river and pushed towards Bai Zai. Chapter 1364. Seeing that both sides were at loggerheads, Xia Yan hurriedly stepped forward and stopped both sides. Everyone, please don't fight. Young Master Jiang, this is Xiao Bing, the former top general of Ao Bo country. General Xiao, these two are cultivators from the below world. I owe them a debt of gratitude. We are a family. Xiao Bing came from a noble family in the Jinlong dynasty. His ancestors were all ministers, dukes, generals and generals of the army. Moreover, he was a talented cultivator. He had reached the Golden Core realm before he was 100 years old. Now, he was in the late stage of the Golden Core realm. Before, when the true Dragon dynasty was still in existence, he was highly valued by Ao Bo. He occupied the capital of the dynasty, Dragon Capital, and was responsible for investigating evil cultivators who committed crimes and protecting the safety of tens of millions of creatures. He was directly responsible to Ao Bo, just like the Nine Gates commander in ancient times. He was quite famous in this world. After Ao Bo's death, he led the remaining troops of the True Dragon sect and the True Dragon dynasty to protect Ao Bo. They fought against Sun Bojun, the giant shark king, and the cultivators of Jade Lake and Billow World. They were known as the first army of the Dragon Protecting Army. So you are from the Billow World. Xiao Bing showed a look of disdain. He ignored Jiang Tian and the others. Then, his murderous aura dissipated. He bowed to Xia Yan and said sincerely, Senior Xia, Sister Tingran, I received news that Sha Qianqiu led a large group of cultivators to threaten you, so I came to help. How are you? Senior, are you hurt? They did come, but I don't know why, but they left. Xia Yan said vaguely. He didn't tell the whole truth, nor did he mention the identity of the true Dragon Patriarch. Sigh, they left. Otherwise, Sha Qianqiu would be dead if he fell into my hands. Xiao Bing glanced at the ruins around him. He didn't take it to heart and smiled disdainfully. The next moment, his face turned serious. He bowed and said seriously, however, Senior, I've already told you that you can just resign and stay out of this. Sun Bojun and the giant shark king, those two dogs, will never agree to it. You are an old official of two dynasties. You have great prestige and are the most representative. Only if you also submit, will he have the power to rally and lead a large number of wavering old officials to submit as well. Only then will he be able to control the others. Indeed. Xia Yan looked deeply ashamed. He shook his head and sighed. I've underestimated giant shark king Sun Bojun's ruthlessness. Senior. This was not a good place to stay. With the giant shark king's vengeful personality, how could he not take bloody revenge? He would definitely come back. Hurry up and come with me to the dragon race's main camp. Xiao Bing said sincerely. If the true dragon patriarch hadn't returned, Xia Yan would have agreed without hesitation. However, he didn't dare to make a decision for Jiang Tian and the true dragon patriarch. Instead, he stepped forward and asked, "Senior, what do you think? Why are you asking about these two?" Seeing this, Xiao Bing became even more suspicious. The true dragon patriarch was dressed plainly. His eyes were cloudy and he looked old as if he was about to die. His aura was not very strong. He looked like a mere foundation establishment cultivator. As for Jiang Tian, although his clothes were luxurious, there was no light from any magical treasure. He only had the light of ordinary treasures. They were dim and mottled. They were like a silver spearhead. They looked good but were useless. At first glance, one could tell that they had no background. They belonged to the fringe of the secular world. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded and agreed readily. Jiang Tian was not someone who was arrogant and looked down on others. In fact, the higher Jiang Tian's cultivation base was, the more sympathy he had for the mortal Chen Zi, and the more respect he had for him. Only by remembering that he had risen from the ashes could he maintain a normal state of mind after reaching the peak. Therefore, he could sit and debate with the peerless heavenly venerables and talk to the connate cultivators as equals. Those who were arrogant once their cultivation was high and thought that they were above all living things would not be able to reach the end. Moreover, this kind of normal state of mind was especially important in the nascent soul stage and the soul formation stage. Many cultivators thought that when the nascent soul stage was strong enough to connect with the heavens and earth, they would reach the soul formation stage. In fact, this was not the case. In the cultivation world, there was a secret that if one wanted to reach the soul formation stage, he must first become immortal. The Tao of heaven was to take away what was surplus and make up for what was lacking. The Tao of man was different. The Tao of man was to take away what was lacking and provide what was surplus. In the end, the Tao of cultivation was the Tao of man. The Tao of man, ants and weeds fought against the Tao of heaven, fighting for fate and fortune. And if one wanted to reach the Tao, he must remember that he came from the weak. He must have a heart that sympathized with the mortal world and loved the weak. Before reaching the soul formation stage, this small realm of the mortal world was very important. This realm was very special. It was not a realm of cultivation, but a state of mind, a state of mind. It was like wedging an anchor that connected the cultivator to his world. It was like a kite with a broken string. No matter how high it flew, it would still be tied down. It would still remember that it was a human, that it was in the mortal world under the blue sky. It would not completely drift away and eventually fall into the demonic path. Jiang Tian had seen too many cultivators in his previous life who went straight to the soul formation stage without experiencing the state of mind. Because of their unstable Tao heart, they were implanted with inner demons and had no chance to fight for the Tao. In addition, Jiang Tian's operation this time was very ambitious. His basic goal was to defeat the Jade Pool, Hai Lan, and other second-level worlds, take back the Dragon Gate, Baiming, and other third-level worlds, and form a strong fortress to defend Earth and cut off the attack route of the ruins of immortality. His highest goal was to enter the ruins of immortality and behead the ruins emperor, intimidate the twin stars of the South Gate, and prevent future troubles. No matter which goal it was, after achieving it, he needed a group of loyal people who could fight and kill to help Jiang Tian suppress the occupied areas. It was just like how he found Ding Lai, Bai Zai, and the four old monsters. Jiang Tian needed to get in touch with more people to screen and choose the right people. Otherwise, if Jiang Tian just left and flew to the central galaxy and took down these worlds, there would be no reliable people guarding them. The forces of the ruins of immortality would still rise from the ashes and pose a great threat to Earth. Everyone, come with me immediately. Only the most important Dharma treasures and Dharma artifacts. Don't bring ordinary treasures, Xiao Bing said quickly. Everyone was about to leave. Just as they were about to leave, Jiang Tian suddenly looked at Takong and old monster Mingi, who were hiding in the dark, and said with his immortal will, "Go to the Baiming and Penglai worlds and have a look." But master, the Jade Pool and High Lan worlds have set up a terrible trap. Takong and Mingi frowned and said with their immortal will, hesitantly. Now that the Dragon Gate had fallen, the AO family of the true dragon was in such a miserable state. It was impossible for them not to worry about the Takong Mountain, the Netherworld sect, and their own worlds. However, they were too loyal to Jiang Tian and didn't want Jiang Tian to take risks alone. They wanted to fight side by side with Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was their hope to defeat the enemy and restore glory. They couldn't let anything happen to him. Ha, the Jade Pool and the High Lan worlds are nothing. I can kill the cultivators there, whether they're nascent soul cultivators or half-step soul formation cultivators. Jiang Tian gently fanned himself with his fan. His face was calm as he tried to persuade them, go in peace. I can deal with them. Yes. Then I hope you can defeat the Dragon Gate and destroy the Jade Pool and the High Lan worlds as soon as possible. Takong and Mingi didn't hesitate anymore. They bowed deeply and then flew away. But this time, Jiang Tian didn't speak with his immortal will. Instead, he spoke with his mouth and everyone heard it clearly. They all changed their expressions and looked at Jiang Tian as if he were crazy. Some of the cultivators who were responsible for guarding even whispered and mocked him. Is this person crazy? He can destroy the nascent soul cultivators of the Jade Pool and the High Lan worlds with one hand. He's a half-step soul formation cultivator. Does he think he's the ancestral patriarch of the true dragon sect? What nonsense are you spouting? He doesn't know his place. Emperor Qing, the Lord of the Jade Pool, and Long Baxia, the Lord of the High Lan worlds, have been invincible for thousands of years. This time, they didn't do it in person. They only asked Chen Bahuang and Sun Bojun to be their special envoys to destroy the Dragon Gate world. The 7 islands and 13 sects in the Dragon Gate world all had to swallow their pride. He can kill Emperor Qing and Long Baxia with one punch. What a joke. Alas, it seems that this guy might be from a wealthy family in the secular world. But he definitely doesn't have any real abilities. He doesn't know his place. But since the ancestral patriarch said so, we can only take him with us. I just hope he doesn't cause any trouble. Xia Tingran, who was originally very disappointed in Jiang Tian, saw that Jiang Tian was so arrogant and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. She could not help but despise Jiang Tian even more. In the cultivation world, the stronger one was, the more they could feel the power of heaven and earth. The more they knew that the world was vast and there were many overlords, the more humble they would be. This young Lord Jiang was only at the foundation establishment level, but he was so arrogant, which meant that he didn't have any real power. Senior Xia, Miss Tingran, is it appropriate to take this guy with us? We are going to kill the overlords of the Jade Pool and High Lan worlds. This is not a game. An old cultivator, Xiao Guang, was very dissatisfied. He asked Xia Yan and Xia Tingran through immortal will. Xia Tingran's face turned red and she sighed in her heart. Xia Yan also didn't understand why the ancestral patriarch of the true dragon sect wanted to follow this arrogant guy who looked weak. But he was a wise man after all. He said with a smile, yes, we must take him with us. This young Lord Jiang is a great benefactor to the Xia family. He is very important. He. Xia Tingran's future husband. Jiang Tian concealed his cultivation level and restrained his divine aura. It was not worth mentioning at all. Now he had to take Jiang Tian and the ancestral patriarch of the true dragon sect. Xia Yan had to find an excuse. He could only use Xia Tingran as a shield. Ancestral patriarch, you, what nonsense are you talking about? Xia Tingran stopped and looked at Xiao Bing worriedly. Her face was pale and she wanted to say something but stopped. Huh? When did Xia Tingran have a fiancé from the Kanglan world? Although Xia Tingran doesn't deserve me, she has always admired me. And I still need to use her feelings and Xia Yan's support to the extreme. How can I complicate things? Xiao Bing, who was arranging things, slowly turned his head. For the first time, he carefully looked at Jiang Tian. A few wisps of imperceptible coldness flashed in the depths of his eyes. Chapter 1365. He's very important. Her future husband. Seeing this, several cultivators looked at Xia Tingren's flushed face and resentment in her eyes. They couldn't help but send a message with their divine sense. Is he Xia Tingren's suitor? Some big family in the secular city? How could he be the first? He can't be compared to General Shao at all. But how could Xia Yan like him? Not really. Today, it's different from before. The Dragon Gate has changed and the world is in chaos. As cultivators, we can either endure the humiliation and work like a horse for the Jade Lake oceanic waves, or we can rise up like General Shao and stab them in the back. That old cultivator, Shao Guang, was an old man of the Shao family. He rolled his eyes at Jiang Tian with disdain and commented while shaking his head. But General Shao is taking the lead and taking risks. How can he be safer than a secular young master? At least he can save his life. He was full of ridicule. Everyone felt a burst of sadness and cried out for Xiao Bing. By the way, they even felt a little disdain for Jiang Tian and Xia Yan. This was the reality. The cruel reality. A hero like Xiao Bing, a well-known hero who had killed so many cultivators of the Jade Pool and fought for the Dragon Gate world, was even worse than a rich young master in the eyes of people like Xia Yan. What kind of world was this? Soon, everyone packed up. Although the Xia family had already dismissed many of their servants and guards, there were still more than 10 of them left. Furthermore, they were all direct descendants of the Xia family. Fortunately, Xiao Bing came with a sea demon in the gold core stage. This sea demon was covered in dense scales and was 1,000 meters long. It was like a moving hill. Its 4 feet were like jade pillars and its webbed feet seemed to be able to cover the sky. With a stroke in the water, it set off monstrous waves and covered 10 miles in an instant. It was carrying a house on its back, like a moving palace. With a gold core stage demon as his mount, it could be seen that Xiao Bing's position in the rebel army was extraordinary. Everyone walked and stopped all the way to the encampment of the loyal army. In every city and island, there were branch leaders under Xiao Bing's command who opened the door to welcome them and bowed respectfully. Along the way, the leaders of the other rebel clans, sects, and gangs also came to welcome them. There was no obstacle along the way, which completely revealed Xiao Bing's domineering aura. Jiang Tian kept a low profile on the road. Apart from meditating cross-legged every day, he observed and understood the local customs, geography, products, economy, politics, and so on. He did everything, no matter how big or small, without leaving a trace. At first, those cultivators looked down on him, but after seeing that he didn't put on any airs and was straightforward and generous, and that the Thunderfire wine in his storage ring tasted great, they forgot about their grudges and gradually became friends with him. However, the old cultivator, Shao Guang, was still very displeased with Jiang Tian. He sneered and said, "You want to win over people's hearts with just a little bit of kindness? Ridiculous. Young Master Jiang, can you tell my ancestor and General Shao that I'm not your fiancé? I have no feelings for you. Don't misunderstand." One day, Xia Tingran suddenly snuck into Jiang Tian's living quarters. Her face was red as she spoke with shame and anger. "This is Elder Xia's excuse. You don't have to take it to heart. You can tell General Shao yourself." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and closed his eyes again. You don't want to say it. Are you lusting after me? You deliberately created a gap between General Shao and me so that you can take advantage of it. Xia Tingran was so angry that she stomped her feet and tears welled up in her eyes. "I covet you. You think too much," Jiang Tian said faintly. He had deep feelings for Zhao Xueqing, and his love was as deep as the sea. His heart was devoted to his beloved wife. In Jiang Tian's eyes, not to mention Xia Tingran, even that arrogant princess was not as important as a strand of his beloved wife's hair. I'm the first daughter of the Xia clan, the future president of the Royal Chamber of Commerce, Cape Chamber of Commerce. If this world is restored in the future, this position will be even more important. Don't you covet me? The more Xia Tingran thought about it, the angrier she became. Her eyes were as cold as ice. Some things were not convenient for her to say. She was originally a famous beauty in this world, and her beauty surpassed all other beauties. In the past, who knew how many handsome young men wanted to get to know her, fawning on her in every way possible and racking their brains to get close to her. Even Xiao Qianqiu's pressure on the Xia clan was partly because he coveted her beauty. Therefore, in her eyes, Jiang Tian was also one of them. You're crazy. Get out. Don't delay your cultivation. I'm using you as a shield. That's your glory. Jiang Tian frowned and said coldly. Humph. Xia Tingran wiped her tears and coldly snorted. Her pure white face was cold as she said coldly, don't think that you can attract my attention and change my opinion of you just because you're acting like this. Please put away your pretentious attitude. I, Xia Tingran, will not fall for it. This will only make me hate you more. I'm attracting your attention. What right do you have? Jiang Tian did not even open his eyes. He continued to meditate and said, Long Yanan, are you an idiot? Throw her out of here right now. Be careful or I'll beat you again. Yes, my lord. Long Yanan, who was dressed as a servant, was so scared that she trembled. She waved her sleeve and sent Xia Tingran flying. Jiang, you've ruined my reputation and allowed your servant to commit murder. You've gone too far. Xia Tingran fell and left in a huff. After that day, Xia Tingran did not pay attention to Jiang Tian from beginning to end. Her eyes were filled with disgust and disgust. Xiao Bing also did not pay attention to Jiang Tian. In his opinion, Jiang Tian was not qualified to compete with him. After more than 10 days, they finally arrived at Xiao Bing's base. This base was a nameless island with a radius of about 30 miles. It was hard to see through the clouds. There were many killing arrays set up around it and several gold core stage monsters guarding it. It was easy to defend and hard to attack. The Xia clan is here. A group of cultivators came to greet them. Sister Tingran, you're finally here. Have a safe trip. One of them was a very beautiful girl who looked very similar to Xiao Bing. She flew over at the fastest speed to greet him. She was 15 or 16 years old. She had a pretty face, bright eyes, and white teeth. Her well-developed body was wrapped in silver scale armor, and her curves were exquisite. She hugged Xia Tingran and rubbed her little head against her neck as she spoke in a sweet voice. It went well. Xia Tingran smiled bitterly. The journey was very smooth, but the Xia clan had suffered heavy losses. This girl was Xiao Bing's sister, Xiao Qingtan. She was only a teenager and had already reached the foundation establishment stage. She was also Xia Tingran's best friend. Now she was on this island, in charge of all the internal affairs. She also contributed to the resistance against Jade Lake and Hai Lan. Xiao Guang walked in front of Xiao Qingtan and set up a barrier to isolate the divine sense. Then, he used a secret divine sense to communicate with Xiao Qingtan for a while. Xiao Qingtan looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and snorted. Then she retracted her gaze and smiled. Everyone is tired from the journey. Let's settle down as soon as possible. Jiang Tian and the true dragon patriarch were treated as Xia Yan's followers. They were assigned to a small barrack, surrounded by low-level soldiers. However, Jiang Tian didn't care. This allowed him to understand the real situation. Brother Xiao Bing has made a lot of contributions these days, right? Xia Tingran was pulled into her room by Xiao Qingtan. Xia Tingran asked curiously as soon as she entered the room. Yes. My brother is very powerful. Some time ago, on the Purple Shell Island, he killed dozens of Foundation Establishment stage cultivators to save Princess Ao Jiao. Xiao Qingtan looked proud at first, then sighed regretfully. Unfortunately, she wasn't there. Sun Bojun and the giant shark king are too cunning. They deliberately released the news to lure my brother. She went to save Ao Jiao again. Hearing Ao Jiao's name, Xia Tingren's body trembled. Her face turned pale and her eyes reddened. There was a complicated look in the depths of her beautiful eyes. There was worship, envy, jealousy, distress, and confusion. The Xia family's Cape Trading Company was a royal trading company. They were very rich. Although Xia Tingran was a lady from a prestigious family and was a big figure in the Dragon Gate world, she was nothing compared to Ao Jiao. In the end, the Xia family existed to buy and serve for the Ao family's royal family. They were like high-class servants. Ao Jiao was the noblest princess of the true dragon royal family. In the past, when Xia Tingran saw her, according to the rules, she had to kowtow 3 times and 9 times. Not only that, Ao Jiao had the purest flood dragon bloodline. She was very talented and her cultivation progress was very fast. At a young age, she had reached the golden core stage. Many senior experts thought highly of her and guessed that she had the chance to reach the nascent soul stage in her lifetime. The Xia family was a royal trading company. The Shao family was a trusted subordinate of the Ao family. Xia Tingran and Xiao Bing had known each other since they were young. A girl's feelings were always poetic. Xiao Bing was tall and handsome. He treated people very well. The key was that he was very talented and his cultivation progress was very fast. Since young, Xia Tingran had been obsessed with and adored him. She was like a fan facing her idol. But Xiao Bing loved Ao Jiao. Back then, when the ocean cover swordsman Sun Bojun led an army to besiege the Ao clan's royal family, he had once disregarded his own safety, entering and exiting 7 times, bathed in blood, and fought bravely to protect Ao Jiao and break through the encirclement. When Ao Jiao was captured again, he risked his life again and again. He was seriously injured several times and almost died. At this time, when she heard that Xiao Bing had risked his life to rescue her again, Xia Tingran couldn't help but be annoyed. Xiao Bing saved her again and again. Was it for the country or for love? Chapter 1366. Xiao Qingtan exuded a maturity and experience that did not match her age. She said seriously, "I know what you're worried about. But is your plan to be an imperial concubine or a general's wife?" "What do you mean?" Xia Tingran avoided her gaze and asked. Xiao Qingtan raised her hand and set up a soundproof restriction. She was still worried, so she set up another restriction that blocked the detection of divine sense. After checking carefully, she said, "Many princes of the Ao family have died in battle. Princess Ao Jiao is the only one left. And in the history of the Dragon Gate world, there is no precedent of a woman becoming an emperor. If my brother rescues Princess Ao Jiao, then he will have unparalleled achievements. Princess Ao Jiao can abdicate the throne and no one will object. If my brother becomes the emperor and marries you, then you will be his concubine. You will be second only to him and above everyone else." Xiao Qingtan's whip pierced into his body and pointed at his vital point. "And if my brother can't do this, then he can only be the commander of the 9 gates in the capital city, an ordinary general. There are at least 80 people with such status in the Dragon Gate world. What status do you have?" Is this your brother's idea?" Xia Tingren's eyes flickered and she looked hesitant. Of course she wanted to monopolize Xiao Bing, but what Xiao Qingtan said was also the truth. Men, especially outstanding men, have 3 wives and 4 concubines, isn't it normal? Even those nobles in the secular world are like this. Cultivators have many Taoist companions, countless of them. Xiao Qingtan did not answer, but said patiently, "With my brother's status, it's normal for him to marry 8 or 10 women. But my brother said that if he ascends the throne, he will only take you as his concubine. At that time, you will be second only to him and above everyone else." "Okay. I have no problem." Xia Tingran blushed and nodded in agreement. "Silly sister, this is not as simple as your acquiescence. You have to help my brother." Xiao Qingtan said softly. How can I help him? I also want to help him, but my cultivation is too weak. Xia Tingran said hesitantly. Now there are a total of 18 troops in the Dragon Gate army. They are all fighting for themselves and no one is willing to submit to anyone. There were sects, clans, guilds, and all sorts of other forces. My brother is only leading one of them. Xiao Qingtan said in a deep voice. The most important thing now is to elect my brother as the marshal to lead the various armies. Firstly, it was perfectly justifiable and easy to command and save Ao Jiao. Secondly, to accumulate merits and build a solid foundation for ascending to the throne in the future. Your Xia family has been serving the true dragon ancestor for 2 dynasties. Senior Xia Yan's words carry enormous weight. His attitude is very important. I can convince my ancestor. Xia Tingran nodded. Xiao Qingtan's face was filled with joy. She said in a tender voice, all right, then I won't be courteous in the future. I won't call you sister anymore. I'll call you sister-in-law. You. Don't shout outside. You'll be laughed at. His words made Xia Tingran's face flush red. Her bones felt lighter and she almost flew into the air. The two of them laughed and joked for a while. Suddenly, Xia Tingran's eyes turned cold. What if Ao Jiao doesn't want to marry brother Xiao Bing, or even if she does, she doesn't want to give up the throne? She's the only direct descendant of the Ao family left. The rest of them have low cultivation and don't even have a gold core. Xiao Qingtan sneered disdainfully. A ruthless decisiveness that didn't match her age appeared. She said, we're willing to save her only because she's the symbol of the true dragon dynasty. This is called holding the dragon girl hostage to command the Dragon Gate. If she dares not to give up the throne, then kill her. Let her and the descendants of the Ao family die without a burial place. Is this also your brother's idea? Xia Tingran was a little creepy. Is this important? These things have nothing to do with sister-in-law. You just have to wait to be your imperial concubine. Xiao Qingtan covered her mouth and laughed. Her beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful crescent shape. She looked innocent, as if the viciousness just now had nothing to do with her. Suddenly, she asked again, by the way, that young Master Jiang, what's your relationship with him? It seems that Senior Xia Yan thinks highly of him. He's a refugee from the Kanglan world. Xia Tingran also knew that there were some rumors going around. She was extremely annoyed and quickly drew a clear line. It seems that my family owes him a favor. But I didn't know him before. Young Master Jiang doesn't have the slightest ability, but he's arrogant and looks down on everyone. He's like a leather plaster that can't be shaken off. From the Kanglan world? Xiao Qingtan looked at him with disdain and said, a refugee from the Kanglan world. He still dares to show off here. If he dares to do that again, I'll teach him a lesson. I won't kill him for Senior Xia Yan's sake, but I'll definitely destroy his cultivation. That's a small matter. The key is that Brother Xiao will become the marshal of the loyal and brave army. We still need to plan this carefully. Xia Tingran didn't take Jiang Tian seriously and said worriedly. After some planning, she went to Xia Yan's barracks and talked for a while. But she didn't know. None of this escaped the immortal will of Jiang Tian, an ancestral patriarch true dragon. Although Jiang Tian was a golden core cultivator, his immortal will was so powerful that it instantly covered the entire nameless island. Ancestral patriarch true dragon was a nascent soul cultivator. Unless the other party had an array set up by a nascent soul cultivator, they couldn't escape his immortal will. I thought he was loyal. I didn't expect that he just wanted to use the name of the Ao family to start a new family. In the simple barracks, ancestral patriarch True Dragon sighed and shook his head with a sad and disappointed face. This is the importance of strength. Jiang Tian was meditating with his legs crossed. Hearing this, he slowly opened his eyes and flicked his fingers with a calm expression. He said calmly, the legitimacy of the royal family and the loyalty of the people are only secondary. In the world of cultivation, the one with the biggest fist would always have the right to speak. Now, the AO family and True Dragon sect had been crushed to the point that not many were left. If the Shao family wants to replace them, it's just a matter of words. Master, you're right. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon bowed and said yes. Let's wait and see. In the process, carefully identify who is truly loyal and who is just using the rescue of the AO family's bloodline to make themselves stronger. We need to protect the strong. As for the latter, we don't care whether they live or die. Jiang Tian closed his eyes and immersed himself in cultivation. His breath was dim and indistinct, like an old monk in meditation. The next day, following his order, the nameless island quickly became busy. The logistics department brought the maids and servants to organize the banquet. In addition, flying swords were sent to invite the tyrants to the nameless island to attend the banquet. On one hand, it was to welcome Xia Yan and the disciples of the Xia family to celebrate the rescue. More importantly, it was to elect the marshal of the 18 loyal troops to lead the battle against Sun Bojun, Giant Shark King and the cultivators of Jade Lake. Although Xia Yan's position wasn't high, he was a direct descendant of the AO family and an important minister of the True Dragon dynasty. In addition, electing the marshal of the army involved the rise of the morale of the resistance forces and the future of the Dragon Gate world. Basically, the leaders of the 18 loyal troops didn't dare to be negligent. They brought their friends and companions and came. Those who attended the banquet were not only the leaders of the resistance army, but also the sons and heirs of the major royalist families and sections. There were even many sect masters and family heads. It could be said that people from all over the world had gathered in one place. In the evening. Buzz! A rainbow flashed across the sky. The rainbow was filled with true water like the Milky Way. One could vaguely see an 8-armed overlord. This expert was tall and majestic, revealing his bronze skin. His hair was disheveled, and his 8 tentacles extended in all directions. They seemed to be able to tear apart the sky and cut off the mountains and rivers. A violent aura filled the sky above the island. It's Zhang Yuzi, a disciple of the Zhang family of the 1,000-foot race. It's said that he formed a golden core in his 30s. He's now a mid-stage golden core cultivator. Someone looked up with respect. The 1,000-foot race is a big race among the sea demons. They're powerful and not weaker than the Shao family. They occupy the North Wind Island of the 7 Deity Islands and are second only to the AO family. Zhang Yuzi is considered a top-notch existence among the younger generation of geniuses. In the vast Dragon Gate world, he's invincible. Other than Xiao Bing, not many young people of this generation are his opponents. He's at least ranked in the top 20. Another person said with a trembling voice. Xiao Bing, come out and fight. Zhang Yuzi's appearance was rough, and he rode the wind and waves. He was like a deity who could summon a great flood. His 8 tentacle-like arms waved in unison as he shouted loudly. Why are they fighting again? Someone exclaimed. Zhang Yuzi has the blood of the octopus. In the living quarters, Jiang Tian had an indifferent expression as he chuckled. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon felt bitter. Xia Yan smiled bitterly and explained. There are a total of 18 resistance forces now, but they're all doing their own thing and no one is willing to submit to anyone. They all think that he's the leader of the Dragon Guard family. Zhang Yuzi and Xiao Bing have also fought several times. Zhang Yuzi, you've already lost to me once in the Flying Fish Sea. Do you want to humiliate yourself again? Xiao Bing's sarcastic voice came from one of the camps. So Xiao Bing has already defeated Zhang Yuzi. This is big news. Many people were shocked. You sneak attacked. What kind of ability is that? I'm not convinced. Don't be a coward. Fight again. Zhang Yuzi roared and grabbed a 100-meter-long mountain with his giant claw and smashed it toward Xiao Bing's camp. Swish! A peerless heavenly saber swept out from the camp. The dense saber light filled the void and chopped the tall mountain into pieces. The monstrous power pressed down on everyone, making it difficult for them to breathe. Zhang Yuzi, I invited you here today to discuss important matters, not to compete for the position of marshal. If you want to fight with General Xiao, you'll have to get through me first. A tall expert with knee-length arms rushed to the sky from the camp and roared in a muffled voice. It was wearing a strange-looking armor, but the armor was engraved with many vivid and lifelike patterns of fish, insects, and birds. The parts of its body that were not covered by the armor were covered with long and soft white hair that fluttered in the wind like water waves. However, it had the face of an ape. With one look, one could tell that it was not a human. It was actually a white ape. Chapter 1367. However, the cultivation of this white ape was extremely powerful. It had reached the late stage of the Golden Core realm. It held a glittering and translucent saber in its hand. There was a faint flow of liquid on the saber, as if it was formed by special true water. It was not ordinary steel or metal. It was tall and muscular, as if it could shake the sun and the moon. Obviously, its physique and bloodline were extremely powerful. White water vapor spurted out of the white ape's thick nostrils. Its face was ferocious. With the saber in its hand and the armor on its body, it did not look like an immortal. Instead, it looked like a yiksha. Shui Qianqing from the Water Ape Island army is here too. Everyone exclaimed. Is he a descendant of the water ape? Whose son is he? The true dragon patriarch asked in surprise. Shui Jueluan's son. Shui Qianqing is only in his 20s. However, half of the valiant bravery of the Shui family had fallen half a year ago. Shui Jueluan was also sacrificed. Xia Yan quickly replied. He's not bad. The true dragon old ancestor was impressed. He then said to Jiang Tian through his divine sense, they are all useful talents. I don't think so. Cultivation is only one aspect. Jiang Tian nodded with a half-smile. This white-haired ape was a descendant of the primordial water ape. Although the primordial water ape was an ape, it did not live in the woods. It usually lived in the coral at the bottom of the water and ate fish, prawns, and clams. It was extremely intelligent and had the ability to control water flow. As it grew older, its ability became stronger. It was the overlord of the water. A young primordial water ape was not afraid of ferocious water beasts, such as tiger sharks and carnivorous whales. An adult primordial water ape was even more terrifying. Even the dragon that dominated the bottom of the sea had to be afraid of it. If it had the guidance of a master, coupled with cultivation, its bloodline would be stimulated and it would become even more powerful. However, in Jiang Tian's opinion, if one wanted to be his subordinate and control the situation for him, cultivation was only one aspect. It also depended on one's intelligence. In the end, the fight did not happen. Suddenly, a ray of light shot through the sky and a person appeared. This person's movements were extremely fast, but his appearance was not flattering. His head was big, his body was small, and his back was slightly arched, as if there was something pressing down on his back. Not only was his body wretched, but his face was also incomparably ugly. His skin was dark with a tinge of yellow, and it was very rough. His huge nose and nostrils were facing the sky, and his two bright yellow eyes were very small. Sometimes they were perfectly round, and sometimes they were squinted into a slit. When he squinted his eyes, his skin and flesh closed up, and there was actually no trace of it. It was as if he did not have eyes. This was especially true for its large mouth. Its thick lips were turned outwards, revealing sharp white teeth from time to time. It was like a wild beast. Just its large mouth and huge nose took up half of its entire face. It was as ugly as it could get. Brothers, His Majesty Ao Bo's body has yet to turn cold, and many of his descendants are in prison, their lives hanging by a thread. We are all cultivators of the Dragon Gate. Back then, we all served His Majesty Ao Bo. Now, before we even fought with the enemy, we are already fighting among ourselves. If news of this spread out, wouldn't the heroes in the world laugh their teeth off? Wouldn't it make our enemies happy? He stood between the two of them and bowed. Although his appearance was ugly, his smile was warm and his gestures were refined and courteous. There was a sense of peace about him, and even his faint demonic aura was lively and lively. He was even more righteous than the so-called human cultivators. His smile was like a spring breeze as he smiled faintly. Brothers, the enemy is right in front of us. Do me a favor and put away your Dharma manifestation divine powers and weapons. This is the old master of the nation, perfected cultivator Xiangui of the Hall of Surging Waves. He can suppress them. This fight will not happen. Everyone was relieved. Perfected cultivator Xiangui was very powerful and had already formed the nascent soul. He was not far away from the nascent soul level and could be called a half-heavenly lord. Also, he was very senior and had always been fair in dealing with matters. His words made the white ape and Shui Qianqing blush. They put away their Dharma manifestation divine powers and entered the camp. Jiang Tian nodded and smiled. This person is a talent that can be cultivated. The world has changed. Monsters look like humans and humans look like monsters. Soon, the camp was brightly lit and the guests gathered. The banquet had begun. On the stage, overlords such as Xiao Bing, Zhang Yuzi, and Shui Qianqing were sitting alone. Some of them were sharp, some of them were full of water vapor and some of them were powerful Dharma manifestations. They were the center of attention. The city lords and the island lords sat on the side. Below them were the generals of the rebel forces and the juniors of the families and sections. As for Jiang Tian, he was arranged to sit at the end. Around him were some presidents of the Chamber of Commerce and members of the small and medium-sized families. The Cape Chamber of Commerce was the royal chamber of commerce of the Zhenlong dynasty and was on par with many families, sects and island lords. Of course, Xiao Bing had to be careful. But Jiang Tian and the ancestral patriarch of the Zhenlong dynasty were only Xia Yan's old friends and their cultivation was average. So, there was no need to give them face. Letting Jiang Tian attend the meeting was for Xia Yan's sake. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been qualified to attend. Everyone, Sun Bojun was defeated by the ancestral patriarch of the Zhenlong dynasty and made a promise with the ancestral patriarch that he would be loyal to the Ao family for as long as he lived. This meeting was hosted by perfected cultivator Xiangui, who had the highest seniority. He stood up and said politely, Sun Bojun forgot to forget about Sun Bojun. However, Sun Bojun forgot his promise and willingly became the lackey of the ocean wave Jade Lake, attacking the true dragon bloodline. The giant shark king was half a disciple of the ancestral patriarch of the Zhenlong dynasty. The ancestral patriarch taught him many cultivation techniques and helped him activate his bloodline. But he betrayed the ancestral patriarch and the Dragon Gate world. The war that has lasted for more than 10 years has spread throughout the Dragon Gate world. The people have no way of making a living and hundreds of millions of people have died. Just a few days ago, they attacked the Xia family of the Cape Chamber of Commerce and killed more than 10 people. Brother Xia Yan just didn't want to be the city lord and the island lord. But they killed so mercilessly. Their actions are worse than beasts. How to fight against the cultivators of the ocean wave Jade Lake. How to kill Sun Bojun, the giant shark king and the other traitors. Everyone, the 18 dragon protectors are here today. We should come up with a plan. Kill them. We are the dragon protectors. We are the traitors of the Dragon Gate and the cultivators of the Jade Lake and Ocean Wave Jade Lake. We cannot live under the same sky. When the atrocities of the Jade Lake and Ocean Wave Jade Lake were mentioned, everyone hated Sun Bojun, the giant shark king, Sha Qianqiu, and the other traitors. They slammed the table and roared fiercely, as if they couldn't wait to cut them into 8 pieces and grind their bones to dust to vent their hatred. The so-called dragons are the leaders. There are now a total of 18 rebel forces. We have to choose a leader. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us to achieve great things. At this time, Zhang Yuzi sipped the divine wine and looked at Xiao Bing maliciously. General Xiao Bing killed 23 Foundation establishment cultivators in a row. His achievements are unparalleled. He is a true hero. Could it be that there's someone more suitable for the position of marshal than him? Shui Qianqing raised his cup and laughed. Come, let me propose a toast to the commander. Brother Shui, I don't dare. I don't deserve it. Xiao Bing's words were polite, but he was as calm as a rock. Obviously, he was determined to be the commander. Zhang Yuzi's face was gloomy. Playing with the wine cup, he smiled and said, Xiao Bing is a human. He has no siren blood. Everyone knows that the Dragon Gate has been the siren's world since ancient times. What qualifications does he have to lead the heroes? At this time, whether it is the human or the siren, they are all part of the Dragon Gate world. Sun Bojun has the siren's blood, and he is also a 1,000-legged octopus like you. Is it suitable for him to be the leader of the army? Xiao Bing retorted. Xiao Bing, how dare you insult me? Zhang Yuzi shouted angrily, Sun Bojun has the same blood as us. But he is a special envoy from the ocean wave world. What does he have to do with the Zhang family? Do you have to mention insulting me again and again? You don't do anything serious all day and repeatedly provoke internal strife. I wonder if you are on the side of the real Dragon Dynasty or on the side of Sun Bojun and the Giant Shark King. Xiao Bing did not move. Xiao Bing is a human. If we take back the Dragon Gate world, will he give up his position to the AO family? Absolutely not. I support Zhang Yuzi. Yes, it is more reliable for Zhang Yuzi to be the commander. The siren bloodline is connected. We are bound together for good or ill. Xiao Bing used to be a general under His Majesty Ao Bo. If he is not loyal, then he is trustworthy. If he is not loyal, why would His Majesty Ao Bo put him in an important position? I support Senior Xiao Bing. At this time, why do we still talk about bloodline? We are all people of the Dragon Gate world. We should abandon the past and unite as one. The commander of the 18th Army belongs to the capable. Xiao Bing's cultivation is the highest. Of course, he is the most suitable. We can't just consider the cultivation. This is a war. The art of war, the arrangement of troops, and the right command are more important. This is a big matter. We have to think about it in the long run. I want to say that it is better for everyone to do their own thing. What if we converge into an army and are defeated? Zhang Yuzi and Xiao Bing each had a group of supporters. For a time, they spoke and berated each other. Some even took out their weapons and magic weapons and were about to fight. The atmosphere was tense. In the middle, there were representatives who did not support the selection of the commander at all. There were also middle-of-the-road parties who mediated. The whole banquet was in chaos and no one could hear each other clearly. Just when everyone was arguing and the banquet was in chaos. Suddenly, there was a mocking laugh. What heroes? In my opinion, they are just a bunch of clowns who only want power. How many of them actually want to restore the true Dragon Dynasty? How many of them actually want to restore the true Dragon Dynasty? It is difficult for them to achieve great things. What did you say? Who are you scolding? At this time, everyone turned to look at Jiang Tian and glared at him. They wanted to pull out Jiang Tian's tendons and skin him alive. Brat, you called us cowards and buffoons. What's your cultivation base like? Are you in the nascent soul stage? Why don't you compete with me? Come on. Let's see what qualifications you have to talk nonsense. At this time, Zhang Yuzi and Shui Qianqing no longer quarreled with each other. Instead, they turned around and looked at Jiang Tian as if he was an ant. Their faces were unfriendly and murderous. Chapter 1368. Humph, this guy even scolded everyone. He is really courting death. Who is he? It seems that he is only at the early stage of foundation establishment. Is he qualified to participate in this kind of gathering? Who brought him in? Why don't you ask him to get out of here? Ha, we don't even need to throw him out. If Zhang Yuzi and Shui Qianqing take action, will he still have a chance to survive? Which one of them isn't a genius who can suppress the world? Everyone had mocking expressions on their faces, but there wasn't much sympathy. After all, Jiang Tian's words were too arrogant. He simply regarded the heroes in the world as useless chickens and pottery dogs. They are friends of the Xia family. He is new here and doesn't know many rules. Please forgive him. Xia Tingren's face was full of shame and indignation. She pleaded for Jiang Tian, but she was very dissatisfied. She softly but anxiously scolded Jiang Tian, "How can a low-level cultivator like you speak in this kind of occasion? Drink wine and eat meat." Humph. Even Xiao Bing's face showed a trace of displeasure. He snorted heavily and did not stop Shui Qianqing and Zhang Yuzi. If it wasn't out of consideration for Xia Yan, he would have already made a move and crushed this kid that spoke rudely into a rain of meat. Xiao Qingtan still needed to make use of Xia Yan. For Xia Yan's sake, he did not scold Jiang Tian. He just sipped his tea and sneered. This guy was really arrogant and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He offended everyone with just one sentence. When Xiao Bing's position as the commander-in-chief was confirmed, no one would be willing to stop him from killing this guy. At this time, Immortal Xiangui suddenly slammed the table and shouted angrily, "Shui Qianqing, Zhang Yuzi, sit down. Do you think that I, the host of this meeting, don't exist? Senior, I will give you face. Today, I will not embarrass a little mortal. Isn't it because this guy's mouth is too arrogant?" Shui Qianqing and Zhang Yuzi both sat down angrily, but they did not forget to stare at Jiang Tian with malicious intentions. If you ask me, although this young Master Zhang's words are fierce, his words are crude but not crude. They are quite reasonable. Perfected Lord Xiangui sighed and said with a worried face, "Our loyal and brave army has less than 100,000 people. He simply couldn't compare to Sun Bojun and the giant Shark King. What's more, the Jade Lake and Hai Lan armies are still coming. The enemy is strong, and we are weak. In such a severe and dangerous situation, it is even more necessary for us to work together and concentrate our efforts in one direction. But in order to fight for the position of Commander-in-Chief, you fought each other. If His Majesty Ao Bo were to know of this, I'm afraid he would be heartbroken." His words left everyone speechless and at a loss for words. Xiao Bing coughed and broke the silence. "Senior, that is indeed the case. However, if we don't have a commander, we will have to fight on our own, and our forces will be scattered. I'm afraid that we won't be able to last for long." Immortal Black Turtle seemed to be deep in thought. He said awkwardly, "Xiao Bing, you've seen it too. If you insist on this topic, something will happen." At this moment, under Xia Tingren's continuous eye signals, Yi Zichen nodded. Xia Yan stood up and said, "This old man supports General Xiao Bing. He used to command the army of Dragon City. He also killed many cultivators and rescued the big families. Isn't it because Xia Tingren admires him? That's why you're speaking for him." Zhang Yuzi suddenly snorted and said mockingly, "Senior Xia Yan, you can't speak and do things for personal reasons." As soon as he said this, many people sneered. Xia Tingren was so embarrassed that her face suddenly turned red. Xiao Qingtan shouted, "Zhang Yuzi, what nonsense are you talking about? My brother's achievements are obvious to all. Senior Xia is also speaking for the public." The banquet that had just calmed down became noisy again. It was so noisy that it gave people a headache. At this time, a cultivator dressed like a Confucian scholar stood up and said with a smile, "I have an idea. Please decide." Heavenly Book Sect's young master, Qin Shangcheng. One of the 18 dragon guards. Not only is this person's cultivation strong, only slightly inferior to Xiao Bing, Zhang Yuzi, and Shui Qianqing, but he is also very knowledgeable, resourceful, and well-versed in the art of war. His words must be reasonable. Everyone quieted down. Even Xiao Bing, Shui Qianqing, and Zhang Yuzi, the elites of the world, were listening attentively. Brother Qin is eloquent, and his wisdom is even better than perfected cultivator Xiangui. I hope he can speak for you. Xiao Qingtan's beautiful eyes shone brightly. She looked quite excited, as if she was a fan who had seen her idol. Qin Shangqing's movements were graceful, elegant, and unrestrained. He had the demeanor of a great master. He smiled faintly and said, I have spent countless heavenly treasures to exchange for a piece of news. Sun Bojun has sent an invitation to the major traders. A few days later, there will be a cultivation furnace auction on the 18 Island. The auction will be held by the Dragon Lady, Ao Jiao. Hearing this, everyone was shocked and angry. They slammed the table and shouted angrily. What? He is auctioning Princess Ao Jiao as a cultivation furnace. Sun Bojun is vicious, too vicious. He doesn't treat us Dragon Gate cultivators as human beings. He is riding on our necks and shitting. This is intolerable. If we don't kill him, we are not human beings. Xiao Bing's face was also gloomy. He clenched his fists tightly. Although he wanted to use Ao Jiao, it was impossible to say that he did not have any feelings for her. Seniors, fellow cultivators, brothers, please listen to me. Qin Shangqing clasped his hands and said with a sad face, you are right. Ao Jiao is the descendant of the late emperor. Her bloodline is noble and she is the symbol of the true dragon dynasty. But now she is being sold as a cultivation furnace by Sun Bojun. This is a slap to the face of all the Dragon Gate cultivators. His tone became indignant and impassioned, and it was extremely infectious. And once the dragon girl Ao Jiao becomes someone else's cultivation furnace, it will be a great humiliation to us cultivators who are loyal and righteous. How do you have the face to stand between heaven and earth? How do you have the face to face the late Emperor Ao Bo? That's right. If we don't kill Sun Bojun and save the dragon girl Ao Jiao, we will be too ashamed to live. For a moment, everyone was agitated. They shouted and their killing intent soared. That's right. Princess Ao Jiao must be saved. And now, we are fighting for the position of Marshal of the 18 armies. Qin Shangqing said, then my suggestion is very simple. Whoever can save Dragon Girl Ao Jiao will be the Grand Marshal of the 18 armies. Everyone will listen to his orders, and no one will dare to disobey him. What do you think? No problem. Zhang Yuzi nodded and glanced at Xiao Bing provocatively. I second it. Xiao Bing pondered for a while and nodded slowly. I second it. Seeing Xiao Bing nodding, Shui Qianqing quickly followed. I second it. I second it. In the end, the representatives of the 18 armies nodded in agreement. The old state preceptor, Immortal Xiangui, felt that something was wrong. He frowned and said, Young Master Qin, what if the enemy ambushed us and surrounded us? Even though Sun Bojun is being very careful about such an important matter and hasn't made a big fuss about it, in order to prevent any accidents from happening, he will definitely have a lot of experts guarding the place during the auction, and there will be an ambush. Qin Shangqing said calmly, but I want to ask the old state preceptor, if there is a mountain of knives and a sea of fire ahead, can we not go? Immortal Xiangui pondered for a while and sighed deeply. That's right. Sun Bojun is really vicious. He knows that we have to go. Even if it is a fire pit, we will jump in. I will go too. Don't worry. Xiao Bing said in a low voice. Sun Bojun and Giant Shark King, these two nascent soul stage cultivators are indeed powerful. We have more than a dozen golden core stage cultivators and Immortal Xiangui, who is a nascent soul stage cultivator. Although we can't kill the enemy, we should be able to save Ao Jiao and retreat safely. Beside him, Xiao Qingtan also nodded. I think that these two bastards might not expect us to save Ao Jiao. They might not come personally. Her words were not without reason. Sun Bojun was now the state preceptor, and Giant Shark King was the king, ruling the entire Dragon Gate territory. But the 18 armies were roaming around and killing rebels. The two of them often suppressed them. Miss Qingtan, you are very knowledgeable. Women are not inferior to men. Qin Shangqing looked at Xiao Qingtan with admiration, causing Xiao Qingtan's face to turn red. Her heart was filled with happiness. Qin Shangqing retracted his gaze and glanced at the crowd. The 18 armies and even our fathers can cause trouble in other places. They can even attack the fake palace in Dragon Capital and the state preceptor's residence. At this time, Sun Bojun and Giant Shark King will definitely return to defend. If we attack together, we can ensure that nothing goes wrong. Good, good, good. This is a good plan. If these two bastards stay in Dragon Capital, there will only be some golden core stage cultivators left on the 18 plates. They are nothing to worry about. Yes, yes, yes. Let's do it this way. Let them be distracted and our chances of winning will be 100%. Once we rescue Miss Ao Jiao, our brave and loyal army will surely sweep away our declining state, and our morale will be greatly boosted. At that time, killing all the traitors and sweeping through the cultivators of the Jade Lake will be a cinch. Hearing Qin Shangqing's words, everyone's eyes lit up. They agreed and applauded. They were very confident in this operation. What a resourceful man. Xiao Qingtan's beautiful eyes were full of admiration. Xiao Xiao even nodded slightly. Even Xiao Bing nodded slightly, thinking that if he became the emperor one day, he would definitely put this person in an important position. Just when everyone was in high spirits, a bucket of cold water poured down. Suddenly, another bucket of cold water was poured over their heads. Jiang Tian slowly opened his mouth and said, "You guys are courting death. How do you know that Sun Bojun and Giant Shark King will be the only two nascent soul stage cultivators in this world? Their strength is not something you can imagine. You are going to die if you go to the 18 plates." Why did this man speak again? Why hasn't he been chased out yet? Some cultivators shouted angrily. You have repeatedly boosted the prestige of others and destroyed our spirit. Are you trying to confuse the hearts of the army? Shui Qianqing shouted angrily. This man has been disrupting the meeting time and time again. It is obvious that he is harboring evil intentions. He might be a spy planted by Jade Lake. It is best to kill him. Xiao Qingtan communicated with the important people present. She wanted to kill him. She had already used Xia Yan, but she did not achieve good results. She might have to give face to Xia Yan. However, Jiang Tian was just an old friend of Xia Yan's in Kanglan world. He came from a humble background and his cultivation was low. Killing him was not a big deal. If she knew that Jiang Tian came from Earth, she would be even more disdainful. She might even kill Jiang Tian directly. Chapter 1369. Humph. If we can't do it, can he? Cowardly and timid, can he still be considered a man? Kill him and use his blood as a sacrifice for this rescue operation. Let everyone see what happens to those who are afraid of battle and those who confuse the hearts of the army. To strengthen the prestige of our Long Zhongyong army. Many cultivators criticized and cursed, their eyes almost spitting fire. In an instant, Jiang Tian became the target of public criticism. Everyone, don't be angry, don't do anything. This young Master Jiang is doing this out of kindness, he just wants us to be careful. At this time, Xia Yan also panicked and quickly pleaded for Jiang Tian. Although he pleaded for mercy, he was also quite dissatisfied with Jiang Tian. Since the true dragon patriarch respected Jiang Tian's background must be extraordinary. It was very likely that he was a descendant of a famous sect from another high-level world. He probably came to this world with the true dragon patriarch to gain experience. But in his opinion, Jiang Tian's own ability was just as so-so. Jiang Tian himself said that he was only at the early stage of the gold core stage. Jiang Tian was even exaggerating. Since you are here to gain experience and accumulate achievements, then just be a bystander. Leave everything to the true dragon patriarch. Why do you have to repeatedly speak rudely and annoy everyone? Patriarch, don't worry about them. Xia Tingran stopped Xia Yan and told him not to meddle in other people's business. She looked at Jiang Tian with annoyance, her attitude clear. Sigh. Patriarch, for no reason, said that he is my future husband and tarnished my reputation. It's good to kill him. The rumors will be dispelled. Qin Shangcheng and Xiao Bing were both mature and steady people. At this time, the two of them did not say a word. They only sipped the immortal wine and sneered maliciously as they watched Jiang Tian being besieged. A mere qi refinement stage cultivator with almost no cultivation. What right do you have to attend the meeting? What right do you have to comment on such a military matter? How dare you spout nonsense at such an important occasion? You are simply courting death. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will kill you. Get out. Zhang Yuzi stood up and approached, looking down at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at an ant. Zhang Yuzi, don't kill them. Immortal Xiangui tried to persuade Zhang Yuzi, but he didn't look happy either. He just forbade Zhang Yuzi from killing people, not telling her not to do anything. Jiang Tian's words were not without reason. However, he was only present as a non-voting attendee and did not have the right to speak, yet he repeatedly disrupted the proceedings of the meeting. If he was not punished, where were the rules? How could he establish his authority? How could he govern the army? Do you know that even the realm lords of Jade Lake and Sea Tide wouldn't dare to talk to me like this? Didn't your elders tell you to be respectful when meeting elders? If I kill you with a single palm strike, even your 1,000-foot race's patriarch won't be able to do anything. Jiang Tian said indifferently as he took a sip of the Thunder Flame wine and drank by himself. It was as if the person he was facing was not the leader of an army, the son of the 1,000-foot clan, but an ant. Elder? Honorifics? You're just a mortal ant. What qualifications do you have to make me use honorifics? Courting death. I won't kill you today for immortal Xuangui's sake. But you'll have to suffer. Zhang Yuzi was enraged. His blood boiled and his Dharma form was activated. Immediately, his 8 tentacle-like arms extended to a length of 100 meters and reached into the void, making him look like an 8-armed demon god. He was extraordinarily mighty. His 8 arms swayed in unison like dragons soaring in the sky, and they grabbed towards Jiang Tian as if they wanted to brazenly tear Jiang Tian apart and dismember him into 1,000 pieces. Very well, you're lucky. You're still alive today just because you said you wouldn't kill me. Today, I'll only ask you to kneel and apologize. Jiang Tian looked indifferent and sighed. He put down the cup calmly and waved at Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon. Yes, Master. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon bowed and reached out his right hand. Boom. A loud sound rang out. An invisible force suddenly erupted and pressed down on Zhang Yuzi and the Fa Xiang like Mount Tai. It was about to crush the Fa Xiang and make him kneel. 8 arms shaking the heavens. Zhang Yuzi yelled. His dantian rumbled and his golden core jumped. His true essence flowed into his tentacles like dragons and pythons, making his Dharma form more solid. He wanted to resist the power of Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon. He was a golden core cultivator in the first place and had a special bloodline and a phenomenal success monster body. In terms of battling power, he was not much weaker than a peak-stage golden core grand perfected cultivator, especially when he was facing 2 refugees from the Kanglan world. He was confident that he could win, so he had been disrespectful to Jiang Tian. But out of his expectation, his law connection didn't even last half a finger before it shattered with a bang. Immediately after, boundless pressure that was vast and heavy like a continent descended from the sky. It was copious and irresistible, and it pressed him down to the ground with a bang like a toad. He prostrated himself on the ground and was in an extremely sorry state. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon defeated Zhang Yuzi, who was one of the top 5 overlords in the army. How is that possible? Other than Xia Yan, all the cultivators around were dumbfounded. Zhang Yuzi was ranked in the top 3 among the 18 loyal warriors. His 8-armed demonic god technique had the power to move mountains and seas. Even among the younger generation of the entire Dragon Gate world, he was invincible and could be ranked in the top 10. And yet, He was slapped to the ground by young Master Jiang's old servant. How could this old servant be so powerful? He was at least a mid-stage golden core cultivator. Everyone looked in disbelief at Jiang Tian, who waved his fan lazily, and their gazes were filled with suspicion and bewilderment. Golden core cultivators were called perfected cultivators and were extremely difficult to cultivate. They needed endless resources and the guidance of an expert. There might not even be 1 in 10 million cultivators. In the Dragon Gate world, golden core perfected cultivators controlled a country, a sect, an island, and a city. Their words carried weight and the world would tremble when they stomped their feet. They were supreme giants. Even in the high-level dimensional worlds like Jade Lake and Hailan, gold core stage cultivators were not to be underestimated. They could serve as the elders and consecrators of the peerless Taoist orthodoxies of the supreme sects, or serve as the grand preceptor, marshal, marquis, and high officials in the secular countries. They were in charge of thousands of troops and held great power. Then, this young Master Jiang was just an ordinary man. What was his background? What was his backing? Why would a golden core perfected cultivator follow him so loyally? Ah! Zhang Yuzi roared, unwilling to accept this reality. He originally wanted to humiliate Jiang Tian, who had angered everyone, and use this to establish his authority. He did not expect to be suppressed like this by a refugee from a remote place like the Kanglin world. It was a great humiliation. His true essence was boiling, and his golden core was almost burning. Vast amounts of true essence condensed into dragon-like tentacles that erupted from his dantian. Each tentacle was capable of overturning the seas and rivers, trying to prop up his body. But unfortunately, not only was he unable to stand up, he was suppressed once more. His entire body sank into the ground with a loud rumble, leaving behind a human-shaped imprint on the hard mountain rocks. The ground caved in, forming a 10-meter-wide crater. A huge gully spread out in all directions, causing the entire nameless island to tremble uneasily. Everyone was speechless. Xiao Qingtan covered her mouth and almost exclaimed. Xia Tingran widened her eyes, as if it was the first time she had met ancestral patriarch True Dragon. Shui Qianqing clenched his fists and wanted to help, but after hesitating for a moment, he stepped back. I've misjudged him. Even Xiao Bing's pupils contracted and there was a hint of fear on his face. Jiang Tian might be nothing in his eyes, but his old servant was definitely not to be trifled with. Even a golden core perfected cultivator might not be a match for him. Why do I feel that this old man is a bit similar? Perfected cultivator Xiangui was startled and he looked suspicious. Jiang, ask your evil servant to let go of me. Otherwise, the 1,000-foot race will kill you even if we have to chase you to heaven and earth. Everyone was so shocked that they were speechless. They didn't even have the time to persuade Zhang Yuzi. Thus, Zhang Yuzi actually shouted loudly. You're courting death. Jiang Tian's eyes became cold and murderous. Ancestral patriarch True Dragon didn't say a word. His true essence spurted out from his palm and after a few cracking sounds, Zhang Yuzi's body was covered in blood. His skin and flesh were torn and his bones were broken. He sank 10 meters into the ground again and couldn't make a sound. Stop! A dignified and angry roar was suddenly heard. The crowd parted like a tide. Xiao Bing, who was wearing heavy black iron armor and a blood-red cloak, strode over. He looked dignified and cold. Fellow Taoist, you hurt my guest on my island, and it was just a small quarrel. You are so cruel. Do you think I don't exist? Of course, Xiao Bing knew that ancestral patriarch True Dragon was very powerful and was even on par with him. But this was his army and he was the owner of this place. If he didn't stop them, he would lose his prestige in the future. General Xiao, don't be rash. These two are people you can't afford to offend. Xia Yan was anxious and tried to persuade him. But ancestral patriarch True Dragon waved his hand and said, Xia Yan, you don't have to speak for me. An old man knows what to do. Xia Yan could only bow and agree, keeping his mouth shut. Let go. Xiao Bing shouted, since you're new here and don't know the strict rules, I won't punish you. He was a golden core perfected cultivator who had once led millions of soldiers and experienced countless battles. His iron-blooded aura was naturally dignified. His brows were raised like heavenly blades and he looked majestic, scaring everyone into silence. Just when everyone thought that Jiang Tian was going to back down. How dare you disrespect my master? You're courting death. Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon's face turned cold and he pressed his hand down. Poof! Zhang Yuzi, who was in the deep pit, didn't even have time to scream before he was crushed into a cloud of blood mist. His entire body, divine soul, and even his golden core were all turned into powder and vanished into thin air. Zhang Yuzi is dead. Everyone was petrified. They stood there dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. Even Xiao Qingtan and the others couldn't believe it. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Xia Tingren's teeth chattered as she looked at Jiang Tian and Ancestral Patriarch True Dragon. Big deal. This is going to be a disaster. A direct disciple of the 1,000-foot clan had died on the nameless island. With the clan leader's fiery temper and the strength of the 1,000-foot Zhang clan, how could he swallow this humiliation? Perhaps everyone present, including Xia Yan, would not be able to get away with it. They would lose a layer of skin. As for the culprit behind all this, Jiang Tian. In everyone's eyes, he was like a dead man. Chapter 1370. How dare you kill people in my territory? Xiao Bing took a step forward, and his eyes were about to spit fire. With a loud shout, the profound iron armor clanged, and the blood-red robe was lifted up by the aura, fluttering like a flag. An earth-shattering aura filled the air above the island. The violent pressure caused the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. It caused everyone's breathing and heartbeat to stop. It was as if there was a huge rock weighing 1,000 pounds on their chests. So what if I killed you? Do you want to fight with me? Facing the pressure, Jiang Tian waved his paper fan calmly like a cool breeze. His long hair fluttered in the wind. Xiao Bing looked at the true dragon patriarch behind Jiang Tian with fear. His face turned red, white, and purple. Finally, he restrained his aura and said fiercely, "Since you are so arrogant, don't blame me for telling the truth when the head of the Zhang family blames me. When the time comes, the Zhang family will take action. Even if you are the son of the Jade Lake clan, you may not be able to survive. Brother, this man has repeatedly disrupted the order of the meeting. He is rude and taunting. He clearly wants to be the enemy of our army. How can we let him go?" Xiao Qingtan was flustered and exasperated. The two of you, as well as the Xia clan, were rescued by my Xiao clan's army and received our protection. But now, you don't know the rules and brazenly kill people in my Xiao clan's territory, humiliating my Xiao clan's reputation. How dare you? Xiao Qingtan, I need your protection. What a joke. You think too highly of yourself. I, Kang Teichu, do things freely. I don't need your protection. Jiang Tian waved his folding fan and smiled faintly. You are just a little ant. How would you know my ability? I am an existence that you can't reach. The small Dragon Gate world is just a small place. There are only a few big cats and small cats. I can do whatever I want. Who can stop me? So he is Kang Teichu. I have never heard of this person's name. Only then did everyone know Jiang Tian's name. Only immortal Xiangui frowned slightly. He felt that he had heard this name before, but he couldn't remember where. How arrogant! Xiao Qingtan was so angry that his face turned red. You're just a navy-tied refugee. If you meet Sun Bojun, the giant shark king, or the Jade Pool's experts, you'll probably run for your life. Since you have the ability and don't need our protection, then hurry up and leave. She directly ordered him to leave. Qin Shengcheng, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, also smiled and said, "Fellow Daoist Tai Chu, our troops here are weak. It's like a vast pond that can't accommodate a giant whale, and a forest that can't accommodate a great rock. Your army should choose another path for the revolution. Xia Yan hurriedly advised, General Xiao, Miss, young Master Jiang and this old man are extremely important. We can't let them leave. Otherwise, you'll regret it. This was the true dragon patriarch. Back then, not to mention all of you, even your fathers were only subjects under his rule, generals under his command. But now, you, Xiao Bing, have no respect for your elders and drove him away. In the future, if you reclaimed the Dragon Gate and regained control of the country, even if you saved Dragon Girl Ao Jiao and made a great contribution, he could still throw you into prison and never use you again. Xiao Bing turned a deaf ear and said nothing. His face was as calm as water. He didn't have the slightest intention of persuading Jiang Tian to stay. His attitude was very obvious. He was extremely dissatisfied with and even hated Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was still sitting upright. He said calmly, coincidentally, I don't want to be with you. Then let's part ways and go our separate ways. From now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other. Jiang Tian stood up, walked out of the island, and said indifferently, he said calmly, but before we leave, I'll remind you that there are some loyal and righteous people among you who do have the heart to restore the country and save the people. Don't go to the 18-disc islands, lest you get killed. Of course we're going. It's none of your business. Xiao Qingtan said sternly. Everyone else echoed her words. Jiang Tian shook his head in disappointment and said, as the saying goes, good words can't persuade those who deserve to die. That's all I have to say. You're courting death. When you're in a desperate situation, don't ask me for help. Jiang Tian was not a kind person. He occasionally saved people, but he had to be willing to listen to him. Life was your own. You had to be responsible for the path you chose. What's more, the Xiao siblings and many of the cultivators in the faction who wanted to protect the emperor were not loyal and kind people. They said they were going to save people, but in fact, they just wanted to get the bargaining chip. They were even willing to kill people in order to seize the imperial power. Asking you for help? Who do you think you are? You dared to kill Zhang Yuzi. Just wait for the thunderous fury of the 1,000-feet tribe. Xiao Qingtan was so angry that her full chest heaved violently. She shouted at Jiang Tian's back. Then she looked at Xia Yan and said coldly, Elder Xia, are we just going to let them go? Who will be responsible if the news is leaked? Xia Yan was stuck in the middle. He said angrily, Xiao Qingtan, what do you mean? Are you going to kill them? Are you going to kill me too? The old man said again and again that they are my friends. They are reliable. You can't afford to offend them. Xiao Qingtan was ashamed and angry. She wanted to say something, but Xiao Bing shouted, enough, Qingtan, shut up. Seeing that the true dragon patriarch had also left with Jiang Tian, Xia Yan hurriedly cupped his hands and said, General Xiao, Immortal Xiangui, fellow cultivators, thank you for saving my life a few days ago. I'm going to go with this old friend. Goodbye for now. Everyone, take care. Then, without waiting for them to ask him to stay, he looked at Xia Tingran and shouted, Tingran, hurry up and go. Xia Tingran showed a look of disdain and said, Ancestor, I'm not going. That old servant is only a gold core cultivator. The key is that young Master Jiang is too arrogant. We will die if we follow him. Xia Yan was so angry that he stomped his feet. He was so anxious that he said with his divine sense, if you don't go, you will regret it. Don't underestimate that young Master Jiang. You will benefit greatly if you follow them. I'm not going. Xia Tingran was ashamed and said angrily, Ancestor, why did you say that he is my fiancé? Who does he think he is? He is just a Kanglan refugee, a mortal ant. How can he be worthy of me? I can't be with him. Otherwise, my reputation will be ruined. She glanced at Xiao Bing and said angrily, besides, he doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He actually allowed the evil servant to kill Zhang Yuzi. It is equivalent to putting our Xia family and even General Shao into eternal damnation. You don't have to be with them. Stay. Senior Xia, don't worry. I will take good care of Tingran. There will be no accidents. Xiao Bing moved and stood in front of Xia Tingran. There was a flash of light in his eyes as he promised. Xia Yan was stunned and suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Xiao Bing was suspicious. He was worried that young Master Jiang would leak the news, so he kept Xia Tingran as a hostage. Well, thank you for your hard work, General Shao. However, Xia Yan was an experienced and steady person in the end. He nodded without batting an eyelid, turned around, and flew in the direction Jiang Tian left. Immortal Xiangui stood up and asked with his divine sense, Senior Xia, who is that old man in cyan? Xia Yan just chased after him and did not answer. Soon, his figure disappeared in the dark night. Who is that old man? He is in the Gold Core realm and is not weaker than General Shao. He is so domineering that he even dared to kill Zhang Yuzi with one palm. Shao Qingtan frowned. Humph, Zhang Yuzi is nothing. In this generation of the Zhang family, only Zhang Taotian's strength is not bad. Zhang Yuzi is just so. Shui Qianqing said coldly, but that old man is really strange. I heard that he came from the Kanglan world. But the Kanglan world is very barren and almost no one can cultivate to the Gold Core realm. So what if he has cultivated to the Gold Core realm? I see that he is old and his qi and blood are declining. His eyes are cloudy. I am afraid that he is thousands of years old and his life is coming to an end. When it comes to a battle, he will definitely not be a match for the Zhang family. Qin Shangqing snorted disdainfully. In the cultivation world, the strong are respected. He relied on his background and powerful evil servants to suppress others. In the end, he is at a disadvantage. Like Xiao Bing, Shui Qianqing, and the others, when they encounter such a situation, they will wipe it out themselves. Young Master Qin, you are right. Shao Qingtan had a look of favor on her face. She was as gentle as water. She quickly said, that Kang Te-chu is the one who doesn't know the immensity of the world. Cultivators have to rely on themselves after all. They don't rely on outsiders. Besides, even if he is from the Kanglan world and has a Gold Core realm follower, so what? Doesn't he know that there are hundreds of Gold Core realm cultivators in the Dragon Gate world? Not to mention that the traders like Swordsman Fuhai and the Giant Shark King have already become nascent soul heavenly lords. If he goes out, he won't have a chance to survive. After Jiang Tian left the Nameless Island, Bai Zhe and Zhang Qianlei took Long Yanan, followed by Patriarch True Dragon and Xia Yan. Jiang Tian smiled and said, Patriarch True Dragon. The loyal soldiers of the Dragon Gate world are just a motley crew. They can't take on such a great responsibility. After we take down this world, I'm afraid you will have to take charge of it yourself. We will follow your orders, Master. Patriarch True Dragon sighed and said in a serious and bleak tone. Master, where are we going now? Bai Zhe asked. To the 18 islands. Jiang Tian waved his sleeves and wrapped them up. He stepped into the air and disappeared. The next moment, he was already 100 kilometers away. At this time, Xia Yan saw a hint of Jiang Tian's power for the first time and was shocked. Without any aircraft, he could fly 100 kilometers in the air. This was not an ordinary Gold Core Realm cultivator, but a late-stage Gold Core Realm Grand Perfected cultivator. The 18 islands were at least 30,000 miles away from the Nameless Island. Between the two islands, there were large and small islands scattered like stars in the sky. All along the way, Jiang Tian saw that some islands were covered in bones and corpses, some cities had smoke that shot into the sky, and the flames of war spread out continuously, and they'd already become cities of death. Jiang Tian saw that the refugees had lost their homes and were driving their boats on the sea like headless flies. Many ordinary refugees had no food or water. They had to sell their children to save their lives. Some even bartered children for food. Jiang Tian saw that some violent sea beasts and birds of prey that had yet to evolve were roaming about, attacking defenseless humans and demon cultivators indiscriminately, treating them as food. This world had become the most primitive and chaotic world. The strong were respected and the weak were like ants. The order had completely collapsed. Chapter 1371. Most of the time, Jiang Tian didn't care. Only the true dragon ancestral patriarch and Baizhe helped to suppress the monsters and save the refugees. It wasn't that he was heartless, but there were too many refugees. Hundreds of millions of humans and monsters of the dragon sect were homeless and it was impossible to save them. The only way to save them was to defeat the cultivators of Jade Lake and Hai Lan, kill the rebels of the dragon sect and rebuild the dynasty. After flying 2,500 miles, they entered the war zone. Here, the rebels and the royalists clashed. Cultivators from both sides fought with each other, and fierce battles often broke out. A single attack from a golden core cultivator would cause thousands of people to die, turning them into meat paste and blood rain. The cultivators of the dragon sect were often at a disadvantage. They were suppressed by the rebels and the cultivators of Jade Lake and Hai Lan. In such a situation, Jiang Tian released his flying sword and killed thousands of people, saving the loyal cultivators of the dragon sect. Thank you for saving our lives, Senior. He's so powerful. Is he a golden core perfected cultivator? The rescued cultivators of the dragon sect knelt down in gratitude. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian and the others had already turned into a dazzling golden light and left without a word. They didn't stop at all. After passing through the war zone, they arrived at the territory of Hai Lan and Jade Lake. There was not much fighting in this place. The many islands and cities were orderly and heavily guarded. On the ocean, enormous warships that were 10 times larger than aircraft carriers floated and cruised like islands. In the sky, splendid flying boats, cloud towers, and islands were all heavily guarded, forming solid defense lines that were unbreakable like a dragnet. 2/3 of the area was under the control of Jade Lake and Hai Lan. However, these guards might be able to stop ordinary Foundation Establishment and Foundation Establishment cultivators, but how could they stop Jiang Tian? Jiang Tian cast an invisibility spell. He waved his sleeves and wrapped everyone up. With a single step, he crossed 1,000 miles and landed on the 18 Island. The 18 islands were a few hundred miles wide. They were majestic and prosperous. There were many cities and buildings on the islands. The sky was a clear blue, like a blue crystal. There was never a trace of dark clouds. The sun was shining brightly, and when the gentle and bright sunlight shone down, there was not a speck of dust. On top of the hundreds and thousands of mountain peaks, pine trees were entwined with branches and leaves, revealing an ancient aura. Mountain peaks formed the Dragon Mountain Range, majestic and imposing. The mountain range spiraled upwards, gradually increasing in height. There were a total of 18 spirals, hence the name. In the deepest part of the mountain, there was a huge city in the sky that was floating in the clouds like a mirage. It made people think that they had arrived in the immortal realm. On the top floor of the 18-plate mountain range was the headquarters of the Ocean View Pavilion. According to the information, it was the location of the human furnace auction. The Seaview Pavilion was the largest trading company in the area occupied by the Jade Lake sea waves. It was even more powerful and famous than the Cape Chamber of Commerce of the past. Many of the large islands and cities in the occupied areas had set up branches where large amounts of cultivation resources could be traded. These cultivation resources were not only from the Dragon Gate world, but also from the Hai Lan world and the Jade Lake world. In just a few years, they had developed to a spectacular level. Because the person behind him was the current imperial preceptor, Sun Bojun, the ocean cover swordsman. No one dared to provoke him. The headquarters of the Seaview Pavilion above the 18 plates was even more magnificent. It floated in the clouds like a celestial palace. There were many large-scale formations shrouding it, and spiritual chi overflowed in all directions like clouds and mist. Not to mention the spirit herbs and grand medicines inside, even just sitting and walking inside would be greatly beneficial to cultivators. But Jiang Tian also found that the security here was very strict. The whole island was full of patrolling cultivators. Some of them were wearing armor, some were wearing Taoist robes. There were at least thousands of Foundation establishment cultivators and hundreds of Golden Core cultivators. And this was only the surface. There were probably many half-step heavenly lords and nascent soul cultivators hiding in the dark, waiting for the rebels to sneak into their pockets and catch them like turtles in a jar. There were still a few days before the human furnace auction. There was not much news here, so Jiang Tian was not in a hurry. It will cost a lot to enter the Seaview Pavilion. The entrance ticket alone will cost hundreds of millions of crystals. Xia Yan said awkwardly. You are not the president of the Royal Chamber of Commerce. You must be rich. This is not a problem. Zhang Qianlei glanced around and asked. Xia Yan smiled bitterly. This place is completely ruled by the Hai Lan world and the Jade Lake world. They have issued their own currency system, which is inscribed with special runes. The crystals we use there are useless. That's easy. Let's rob them. Bai Zai's eyes greedily scanned the surrounding high-level cultivators, and he rubbed his fists, eager to give it a try. Well, Brother Bai Zai is right. Let's find a shop or a rich cultivator and rob them. The black-haired dog next to him also urged enthusiastically. Jiang Tian shook his head and said lightly, not yet. It's not time yet. If we kill and steal, it's hard to avoid alerting the enemy. Let's go. Let's walk around. Jiang Tian made a gesture and touched Long Yanan's face gently. Master, why do I look different? Long Yanan suddenly felt the muscles on her face twitching. She took out a mirror and was shocked. Her mouth was crooked and her eyes were slanted. Her face was full of acne and looked like a toad. She had become extremely ugly. Not only did human cultivators avoid her, but even some half-human and half-demon cultivators were trembling with fear. This girl is so beautiful. On the other hand, there was a cultivator with the sea toad bloodline who bought a fresh flower from a store and held it in his mouth. He looked at her flirtatiously and threw flirtatious glances at her. However, Long Yanan was so disgusted that she vomited. Keep a low profile. Don't worry, it will only last for a month. After a month, the magic power will dissipate. If you cooperate with me and help me capture the reinforcements of the Hai Lan world, I will make you as beautiful as a flower. Jiang Tian had one hand behind his back while the other waved a folding fan. He walked on the street as if he was taking a stroll, and he spoke lazily. In fact, Jiang Tian had also changed Xia Yan's appearance. After all, he was one of the most powerful cultivators in this world, so he didn't want to be recognized. However, Xia Yan was mature and prudent. His mentality had been washed clean. Naturally, he would not take his appearance and image to heart. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian and Jinlong had used the secret art of qi concealing that Jiang Tian had taught them. They suppressed their cultivation to the Foundation establishment level and even became ordinary people to avoid attracting attention. Humph. In your dreams. If my sister comes here, you will be no match for her. She is an overlord on the war god list of the immortal ruins. Even if you can kill a nascent soul heavenly lord, you might not be able to defeat her. When she noticed the strange and disgusted gazes of the surrounding cultivators, Long Yanan was angered to the point she almost fainted, and she wished for nothing more than to tear Jiang Tian into pieces to vent her anger. There was a strong smell of the sea in the air. Jiang Tian strolled on the first Pan Mountain and found that even the human cultivators here had some rust on their faces. This was because they had lived and fought in the sea for a long time. When Jiang Tian turned to a market on the first Pan Mountain, he found that this place was much more prosperous than the level 4 worlds such as the Heavenly Star world and the Chia world. It even surpassed the West Earth dimension. On both sides of the wide street, there were tall buildings and all kinds of shops selling cultivation resources. In the open space, there were also some stalls where many cultivators were picking and choosing. It was very lively. Sea pearl, 6-leaf seaweed, purple gold sea stone, deep sea cold iron, Jiang Tian scanned the area with his spiritual sense. His heart skipped a beat as he revealed a look of surprise. Chapter 1372. The cultivation resources in this place were very rich. This was especially so for water-type cultivation resources. There were various high-level ores and spiritual herbs, as well as the furs and demonic cores of various marine demonic beasts. They were all treasures and could be found everywhere. Their prices were extremely low. A decent foundation establishment demonic core could be exchanged for only a few thousand crystals. It was as if they were given away for free. In the Dragon Gate world, other than demonic cultivators and ordinary cultivators, there are more violent demonic beasts. There are many demonic beasts around almost every island. It's impossible to kill them all. Killing them to obtain cultivation resources is the usual practice of the cultivators in the Dragon Gate world. Patriarch True Dragon explained with his divine consciousness. The Dragon Gate world was a cultivation world where demonic cultivators were the main cultivators. And demonic cultivators had many paths. Some living beings might be humans and have a human form, but they had the bloodline of demonic beasts. Patriarch True Dragon and Baizé were among them. They did not need to cultivate to the nascent soul stage. After the transformation process, they could appear as humans. Even Shui Qiancheng, who was half human and half demonic, might have the appearance of a demonic beast, but his spiritual intelligence was extremely high. He was no different from a human. Humans who possessed the bloodline of demonic beasts or half-demonic beasts would be able to activate the hidden bloodline of demonic beasts in battle. Once they entered the gold core stage, they would be able to easily unleash their Dharma power. When they reached the nascent soul stage, their Dharma form was also closely related to the bloodline of demonic beasts. They would often appear in the form of demonic beasts. But there was also a group of ordinary humans who did not have the bloodline of demonic beasts. But they could still use many mystic techniques to forcefully absorb the blood essence of demonic beasts and refine their souls. They could reconstruct their own bloodline and create a Dharma form similar to that of demonic beasts. They could also unleash terrifying combat strength. This group was also demonic cultivators. Of course, in the Dragon Gate world, many ordinary human cultivators still cultivated according to ordinary cultivation techniques. Their aura, golden core, and Dharma form had nothing to do with demonic beasts. They were ordinary cultivators. In short, demonic cultivators were just a way to use the power of primitive demonic beasts. It was a special cultivation civilization and not all of them evolved from beasts. Instead, there was a group of primitive demonic beasts that were savage and did not have much spiritual intelligence. They were bloodthirsty and violent. Although millions of years ago, they even shared a common ancestor with cultivators with innate demon-beast bloodlines, they still became the target of public criticism. Their demonic beast bloodline was the purest, and their combat ability was also the most magnificent. However, it was actually the most difficult for them to develop intelligence or take human form. They were cruel, bloodthirsty, and difficult to communicate with. Therefore, they became the greatest enemy of all the cultivation civilizations. These demonic beasts were also known as berserk demonic beasts. Such primitive and violent demonic beasts would usually not appear in the islands and cities where the cultivators of the Dragon Gate world gathered. They would often gather, live, and reproduce on primitive, desolate islands or in dark oceanic trenches, killing each other and ambushing human cultivators. Of course, demonic cultivators and ordinary human cultivators would also kill them and use their blood essence and soul to improve their battle prowess and cultivation. The Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures here are very expensive. Jiang Tian nodded his head and turned into a shop called Ocean Treasures Pavilion. He glanced at the many magical equipment on the shelves and pondered. In the first round, there was also a Sea View Pavilion branch. Its aura was the greatest, and it stood out like a crane among chickens. However, Ocean Treasures Pavilion was only slightly inferior. In this market, it was also very conspicuous and had many customers. Clearly, it was of a much higher class than the other shops and stalls. However, after Jiang Tian glanced at the Dharma artifacts on the shelves, he could not help but chuckle. Here, there was not a single true weapon or low-level numinous treasure. Most of them were ordinary Dharma artifacts. There was only one Dharma artifact flying sword. It was placed in a conspicuous position and was guarded by 5 or 6 Foundation establishment cultivators. No one was allowed to approach it, and they had set up layers of restrictions and shields that emitted resplendent light. Clearly, they treated it as the treasure of the shop. It's just a magical treasure, yet you're treating it so preciously. It's too shabby. Jiang Tian revealed a bitter smile and shook his head. Ultimately, the Dragon Gate cultivators are mainly demonic cultivators. Be it ordinary humans or demonic beasts, once they step onto the path of demonic cultivation, they will become bloodthirsty and violent. They are better at stimulating their own strength and developing their intelligence. Their ability to use external objects is much weaker. The true dragon patriarch bowed and explained. The decline of Dharma artifact refining in this world was not formed overnight, but gradually caused by the development of the demonic cultivation system. Also, there's one more thing. In the few years when Hai Lan and Jade Lake World invaded this world, the power of this world has gradually weakened. Next to him, Xia Yan also explained. True weapons and numinous treasures are not allowed to be traded publicly. They will confiscate them when they see them. Privately refining Dharma artifacts is also not allowed. Even if Dharma artifacts and Dharma artifacts are allowed to be traded, they are usually used for beauty, protection, strengthening, and flight. If you want to have a Dharma artifact with great destructive power, you have to add runes to it. Once you kill someone, you can immediately track the murderer. Yes. In the prosperous Dharma artifact refining civilization, there are even Dharma artifacts for civilian use and military use. Jiang Tian shook his head again and said. The Hai Lan and Jade Lake World cultivators are equivalent to a ban on martial arts, weakening the local cultivators of the Dragon Gate. Only when one is strong and the other is weak can there be long-term stability. So, this is all that is left. And this trash is sold for 100 million spirit stones. Damn it, this is robbery. I am the shopkeeper of this shop, Ouyang Yuan. Young man, are you buying or not? If you are not buying, then don't wander around here and make comments. At this time, an early-stage Foundation establishment shopkeeper walked over, cupped his fists, and snorted in dissatisfaction. Jiang Tian only noticed this now. Many people around him looked at him in surprise. Obviously, his comments just now were too shocking. The few shopkeepers, who looked like managers, glared at Jiang Tian as if he had bullied his own mother. Jiang Tian did not have the intention to ruin the shopkeeper's business. He cupped his fists and said apologetically, "Haha. It's just a casual comment. Shopkeeper, please don't take it to heart. These things are too expensive and I can't afford them. I just want to take a look." The shopkeeper called Ouyang Yuan was dressed luxuriously and had an extraordinary bearing. His eyebrows were raised to the sky as he said arrogantly, "You are just a mortal. You're just a mere mortal. Do you think you have the right to comment on the magical treasures of our treasure seafood pavilion? Our things are trash. You are really ignorant. Who doesn't know that our refining skills are second only to the Sea View Pavilion and the Sea Corner Chamber of Commerce? What do you mean by ignorant? He's practically blind. Ridiculous. A mere mortal ant dares to comment on our treasure seafood pavilion. We are open for business. This is our shopkeeper. We won't lower ourselves to your level. Otherwise, we would have killed you. All refiners have to be at the Foundation establishment stage and have extremely strong spirit and true essence. Only then can they control flames, remove impurities, and inject spirituality. He is just a mere mortal. What does he know about refining? Many shopkeepers were ridiculing him. Even some busybodies who were originally customers also insulted him. Jiang Tian was just casually strolling around to understand the situation here. He had a reason for the incident just now, so he had done his best to tolerate it. But now that he was being ridiculed like this, it would be a waste of the refining skills he had accumulated in his previous life if he did not slap them in the face. Besides, if he wanted to get an entrance ticket to the Sea View Pavilion and enter without attracting attention, he would need some special notes and crystal bills. He also needed to make money. Jiang Tian leisurely walked out of the Treasure Seafood Pavilion. He set up a stall in the open space across the street and wrote a signboard, "Refining on the spot." While Jiang Tian was strolling around, he calculated the prices of the magical artifacts and the materials needed to refine them. The price of a magical artifact was 5 to 6 times the price of the materials. It was even 8 to 9 times the price of the materials. This price difference was too outrageous. In any normal cultivation civilization, the price of a magical artifact was only 1 to 2 times the price of the materials. Such a huge difference in price was the reason why the refining civilization of this world had declined and why there were too few refiners. Therefore, Jiang Tian's signboard was that he would refine magical artifacts for others. The price was 2 to 3 times the price of the materials needed. In this way, Jiang Tian only needed to refine a few magical artifacts and he would be able to earn all the crystal bills needed for the entrance ticket. Of course, he could not casually refine a true artifact in this place. Otherwise, Jiang Tian would be able to eat until his belly was round after refining a true artifact. TSK. Is this guy crazy? He wants to refine a magical artifact. Does he have the ability? Seeing Jiang Tian setting up a stall to refine artifacts, the crowd was very disdainful. You want to compete with me? You are asking for humiliation. Especially the shopkeeper of the Treasure Seafood Pavilion, Ouyang Yuan, who was too lazy to even look at him. He directly walked upstairs.